from the struggle, now we pushing success. With a vision so bold, we ain't settling for less. Dr. Jimmy Davies laid the whole foundation. Now we moving as a global black-owned nation. Entrepreneurs link from the west to the east. Weekly masterminds where the growth don't cease. AI tech group chats full of wealth. Teaching folks how to scale, stack and invest in self. No gatekeepers here, just doors we unlock. Turning side hustles into Wall Street stock. It's a movement, purpose in every track. Uplift the people, try Every.Black. Own it, your dream, your grind, your plan. We build legacies hand in hand. Every.Black, we ride. No cap, just fact. It's business power, we ain't looking back. No cap, just facts. Every.Black, here we go, y'all. Every.Black is in the house. From the hood to the hills, we redefine wealth. Teaching systems and skills, how to do it yourself. Weekly meetings with the leaders and game changers. Real talk, real tools, real world shapers. AI study groups got us ahead of the wave. We breaking old chains, now we digging new graves. For poverty, doubt, and them myths they talk. This that build up from nothing, kind of food for thought. You don't need a loan, just a team and a goal. We provide both, yeah, we digging the soul. We the future, the now, and the roots in black. If you ready to rise, try Every.Black. Own it, your dream, your grind, your plan. We build legacies hand in hand. Every.Black, we ride. No cap, just fact. It's business, it's power, we ain't looking back. Ooh, cap, just facts. Every.Black, here we go, y'all. Every.Black is in the house. It's a family of founders, a crew of believers, helping dreamers and doers become high achievers. We don't just talk, we coach, we connect. From the mind to the money, we demand respect. Zoom calls turn to breakthroughs and new growth. We celebrate each win, we all toast. Legacy minded, worldwide in scope. Every black ain't a wish, just hope with a road. No gimmicks, no games, just impact. Facts, own your space, your name and your stack. So if you're tired of the cap and the crabs in the back, level up with the squad, try Every.Black. Own it, your dream, your grind, your plan. We build a legacies hand in hand. Every.Black, we ride. No cap, just fact. It's business power, we ain't looking back. Cap, just facts. Every.Black, here we go, y'all. Every.Black is in the house. Own it. Every.Black, own it. Every.Black, own it. Every.Black, own it. Every.Black.
And I'm just so pleased as punch to have him in the room. Dr. Boyce Watkins does not know this, but he was one of the first black tests of our marriage.
Uh-oh.
Because I get a lot of flack. Y'all don't hear about my black love story when we go to our lunch break and then we go into our black love panel, our marriage next door panel with the fabulous Wetzels. But I was an equal opportunity employer, and he was the one that made the cut. And so he has helped more children get out of poverty than anybody else I know through scholarships and band and other things, right? But when I moved to Louisiana and had my very first Black Business Marketing Expo, Dr. Boyce Watkins was the speaker. And he outlined all the sins of the white man, y'all. The white man did this, and the white man did that, and the white man took our women, and I'm sitting there and I look at him, I'm like, because he done toted all my stuff. I had just moved there, so it was all in boxes. You know, any military people, you know how that is. You got boxes upon boxes. He had unpacked and set everything up, and he was selling my books and selling my classes in the back of the conference. And I looked at him, I said, are you okay? He said, well, everything the man's saying is right. I said, oh, I got a good one. So I appreciate my vanilla milkshake back there. And I just, yeah, y'all give Mr. Man a hand. Y'all see my podcast, that's the infamous Mr. Man. But that was a test. I was like, is he ready for this world? Oh, he's just without a doubt. So let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Boyce Watkins. He is one of the founding fathers in the field of financial activism. All right, where black wealth is one of the key determinants in the fight for social justice. Anybody in here tired of social injustice? Anybody in here ready to do something about it? Woo, all right, all right. In college, Dr. Watkins was the Wall Street Journal outstanding graduating senior in finance, graduating with a triple major. I know he doesn't want me to say all this about him, but you need to know who we have in the room. With a triple major and 2 bachelor's degrees, all within 4 years. In 2002, Dr. Watkins was the only African American in the world to earn a PhD in finance. How many other firsts do we have in the room today? How many other first teachers? How many other first entrepreneurs? How many other first business owners? I was the first black physicist in the Air Force, and since the rest of the military doesn't have physicists, I like to say the first black physicist in the military. My paperwork says Air Force, right? All right, when we're the first in something, that takes some effort and some determination. All right, born to a 17-year-old single mother, Dr. Boyce D. Watkins is one of the leading financial scholars and social commentators in America. He advocates for education and economic empowerment and has changed the definition of what it means to be a black scholar and leader in America. He founded the Black Business School, which specializes in black wealth training at a fraction of the cost of a college education. The Black Business School serves over 150,000 students worldwide, and Dr. Watkins has another 4 million followers on YouTube, Twitter, Insta, and Facebook. He has made appearances in media outlets around the world, including ABC News, NBC, CNN, and more. And he is the author of the new book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. Everybody, let's put our hands together and welcome to the stage Dr. Boyce Watkins.
Thank you. Yeah. How's everybody doing today? Fantastic. Ooh, buddy. Oh my goodness. It's funny when somebody airs out your stuff and throws it up there, like the speeches I gave. I was like, ooh, I said all that? Oh. That sounds like it was an interesting day. Well, you know, I think it's it's such a nuanced conversation in terms of talking about race and wealth, because I have found that there are a lot of people who believe that loving black people means you have to hate white people. You know, and I just don't have time to spend my life hating anybody. And because hate is such a toxic emotion. You know, it's hard to carry around all that weight, and so you know and so I have to explain to people sometimes, you know, because when you do stuff like this, you meet all different kinds of people that might be interested in for different reasons, and sometimes I meet people that are what I might call like blackety blickety black, and they impose certain ideas toward me, like, okay, that means that white people are never ever allowed anywhere near anything that we're doing, and I'm like, no, I'm not threatened by that. You know, the same way my daughter was born in Jewish hospital. They didn't tell me I couldn't be there because I was black. If I wanted to go to the Notre Dame University, clearly run by the Catholic Church or by people that are Catholic, they don't tell me I can't attend Notre Dame. So I said, we got white people in the Black Business School. Why wouldn't you want to learn from intelligent black people? I think that we should be leading the world. We are the smartest people in the room 9 times out of 10. We are the only people, actually, that can say that we survived the slave dungeons, the Middle Passage, 250 years of the most brutal slavery known to man, 100 years of Jim Crow, another 40, 50 years of mass incarceration, the war on drugs, and we're also surviving whatever they're doing to us right now. We won't know about that till for another 50 or 60 years. That's when all the FBI files will be released, and we're gonna find out what they're doing. Like, 'cause I'm still trying to figure out what happened to hip hop music. How we went from Tribe Called Quest and KRS-One to Kill, Die, Nigga, Die. You know, like who did that? Who was responsible for this, right? Because this was, we were not on that committee. This was not something that we decided to do. But I think that you have to be thoughtful about these, what I perceive to be very deliberate efforts to degrade our culture and short circuit us from becoming who we're truly meant to be. Now, first off, I want to say thank you to JJ and her vanilla milkshake. Awesome guy wearing the black excellent shirt. If I saw that shirt, I said, okay, he's a cool dude. And thank you so much for having me. I'm very honored to be at your event. I have so much respect for what you're doing, and I love the fact that you work together as a couple. That's what my wife and I do. And also, I want to mention that it's interesting. I was watching Asia's brilliant conversation about quantum wealth theory. First of all, I like the title. I said, wow, that's a great title. I wonder what this is about. It's quantum physics and quantum mechanics. If you study that stuff, it's just mind-boggling. Albert Einstein, he used to call it spooky math. I think that's what he called quantum physics, because it didn't make any sense. Quantum entanglement and the double slit experiment that she talked about, all that. So I'm a little bit of a nerd, so I was like, okay, let me see what she's got. And then she starts breaking down the brain and behaviors and everything. And I said, I wish my wife was here, because my wife happens to be a therapist and an expert on the subconscious mind. And she is a smart black woman. I'm very proud of her for that. She reads about 22 books a year. And one book she read 4 times was a book about the subconscious mind. And I listened to her and I talked to her about things. And what these conversations fed into me was this keen understanding that the biggest barrier that we have to building wealth, one of the biggest barriers, it isn't really just access to resources. That's important. That must be discussed. It isn't access to knowledge and information. You literally have an entire university on your cell phone. Right? So it's access to information. You can't say, well, I couldn't get the knowledge, or they kept it from me. No, maybe we could say that 50 years ago. You can't say it now. If you got an iPhone, you can learn anything you want to learn. A lot of it is really culture. A lot of it is culture and habits and the subconscious mind and how we're programmed as children and into adulthood and all these other things. And I said, my gosh, this is really what's going on. America is a beautiful, amazing, extraordinary country in certain areas. There are things that we do better than anybody on earth. And in fact, we are very, very good at industrialization, and that's helped us win wars. Right? And by the way, shout out to every veteran in here. Veterans make sacrifices that you mentioned that nobody talks about. Nobody shows respect to that. And I'm gonna go on a little tangent. I'm gonna circle back, but I gotta go on this tangent here because my grandfather served in World War II, and once he was hit in the head with a cannon on a Navy ship, and they thought he was dead. And so they put him in the morgue and zipped his body up. And he literally wakes up and starts pushing and saying, let me out. And he gets let out. And he goes on and marries my grandmother, stays married to her for 70 years and took care of her until the day she died. And then my father went to Vietnam, and he can't talk about it to this day. He talks about being pushed out of the airplane when he didn't want to jump out. They pushed him out of the plane. He talks about sleeping in the ditch and hearing the mortar fire and the bombs going off that night. And what was interesting is that on one hand, the unhealthy coping mechanisms occurred, things like heroin addiction, which affected so many of our men and women that went over to Vietnam. But also what was interesting was there was this really tough, dogged determinism that he developed as well, where he said, when I was in that ditch, I decided I'm gonna do whatever I gotta do to get home. I'm going to survive this no matter what it takes. So he comes home, and I said, well, how did you get off of heroin? I said, I heard heroin's a hell of a drug. And he said, and literally, he said, I just stopped doing it. I just realized that was not the life I wanted. I didn't want to be a junkie. And I watched him throughout his entire life have that same attitude when it came to accomplishing the goal, right? Figuring out what the mission was. Okay, my family needs me to find a way to make money. I'm going to figure that out. Right, and to some extent, and I think we discount that, right? We discount just our personal power when we're committed to doing something. We discount the importance of understanding at some point you got to put your excuses to the side and figure out what the assignment is. And this creates a real interesting contradiction or a challenge I have, because I have part of my audience. I attract a lot of military folks, a lot of veterans follow me. And I remember I asked a soldier, I said, you know, I respect soldiers, I respect veterans immensely, but why do so many veterans follow me? And what he said was, because you give an assignment, you tell us what the mission is, and that's what we understand. You know, and I said, okay, that's it. Yeah, you know, you have a problem, you solve it, right? But then I've got people that I have to challenge a little bit, who unfortunately were hit by this other culture of almost like a really heavy victim mentality. Yeah. You know, not to the point that we haven't gone through things. We know what we've gone through, and we can lay that out on the list, and we should acknowledge all of that. But it's like, that's not supposed to be a crutch, right? We can't let that be a crutch. You know? And so that becomes that's my story, and that's why, you know, I'll never disrespect a soldier. I think that soldiers are not appreciated. When my father told me about how he came home from Vietnam and people were calling him baby killer and all this stuff, I got mad. I said, I want to go back in time and kick those people in the face. You know, and now that he's got blood cancer and he's sick and he is dying from Agent Orange and things he experienced in the military, we're talking about these things, and these things, that is literally what is on my heart right now as I speak to you. So thank you for your service, if you have served, and I wish our country appreciated you as much as they should. I just have to say that. Now circling back to what we were talking about earlier, you know, here's the deal. When you're talking about wealth and economics, you cannot understate the importance of culture. Culture is more important than how many degrees you got. It's more important than how much wealth you have access to per se. Those things matter, but that's not, you don't have to go take a bunch of classes in order to understand building wealth. And let me give you an example. My wife and I went to China, and we were in China for about 3 weeks, and we traveled to different regions of China. And I'm gonna tell you one thing that was really interesting. I don't want to stereotype here, but man, they know how to sell a product. Anybody ever been in a space where maybe it was Chinatown or China itself, and just seeing how assertive they can be? Like they will hunt you down and chase you down and follow up and upsell you, downsell you, negotiate, barter, whatever they got to do to make that sale. And all throughout the country, when I went to different regions, I would see this, you know, similar products, which made me think about the distribution systems. I saw similar sales techniques. I saw similar business models. And I bet you that a very small percentage of all these thousands of entrepreneurs I ran into, a very small percentage of them went to college and studied business. Right? And so this idea that you have to go and get all this knowledge and information to build wealth, run businesses, or whatever the case may be, I think that that's overemphasized a little bit. I think that's important, it's beneficial, but it's not necessary. Culture is everything. So if we talk about culture, and let's talk about that a little bit. I was speaking last night with a great man that everybody should know about by the name of Professor James Small. And Professor Small is an expert on Black history and culture. He talks a lot about Africa and all the things we should know about Africa. And he tells those stories that you'll never learn in school. Because I don't believe that we're ever going to really learn who we truly are from a public school system. I don't think that the public school system is designed to empower anybody, even people who are not Black. In fact, in Chicago, we have 55 public schools where not one single child can read or do math at grade level. In 55 schools. Think about it. So if there's 2,000 kids in every school, it's over 100,000 kids that cannot, not one child. Right? So this is an issue, and it's not just an issue that affects Black people. There are lots of documented stories and information about why the public school system was designed, what it was supposed to teach you to do. It was designed to manufacture workers. It's one of the reasons that the Rockefellers poured so much money into the public school system, because they said, we don't want people thinking independently. We don't want a bunch of people that want to start businesses. We want people that are going to become cogs in a wheel, that are going to understand their part in this mass production process. So school kind of rewards you for sitting down and shutting up more than it rewards you for being creative and intelligent and taking risks and all these other things that you have to do in order to build wealth. Well, Professor Small was talking about Juneteenth, and we're running up on the Juneteenth holiday, And also my birthday's in a couple of days. It's going to be the 27th anniversary of my 25th birthday. So that's and it's funny. I was born actually on Father's Day, and unfortunately my father was not there to receive me as a gift. I think I'm a pretty nice guy. You should have been there. It was a nice party. But anyway, so one thing he said about Juneteenth that was interesting was, he said that we live under this myth that Juneteenth was this day where the soldiers came down and told the slaves in Galveston that they'd been freed and that they could all go and everybody's good, just going out, head on out the door, life is better now. He said, actually, this is according to Professor Small, I just learned this last night, so I still have to go verify everything, but he's a smart guy, he knows a lot of stuff. He said, actually, that wasn't true. He said that in Juneteenth, when they came down and talked to the slaves, they said, you're not free, but you have a different situation. You are still going to work for the same master. You are required to still stay on the plantation and work for the master. The difference is that he has to compensate you. So you won't be slaves anymore, you'll be employees. Or better yet, you might say they went from being unpaid slaves to being paid slaves. And the amount you will be paid will be determined by the master. So your boss, your master, is going to get to decide how much he wants to pay you. If he wants to pay you a penny a day, then that's what your pay is going to be. And then they created things like vagrant laws, where if you weren't working for your master, if you did not have a job and you were black, you were going to be incarcerated. And when you get incarcerated, they're going to lease you back to the plantation owners so you can work for them. What does that sound like? Anybody know about a system does that sound familiar to y'all at all? Is there any system where we incarcerate people and then sell them to corporations for small amounts of money? I don't know, I can't remember. It starts with a P, I can't, not OPP. And then he said there was a third group of slaves who said, to hell with that. He said that this, and again, this is not documented in history. He said there was a third group of slaves that said, well, you're just going to do what you got to do. I'm not going back to that situation at all. We out of here. So if you got to shoot us, you got to catch us, try to kill us, whatever, catch me if you can, but we out of here. And these were the individuals that went and set up a lot of the very prosperous black towns all across the United States. Like the Black Wall Street. Remember, Tulsa Black Wall Street was just one of hundreds of towns that were set up, and one of hundreds that were burned down and destroyed. So the story, it was a systematic kind of issue. And I heard what Professor Small said, and I said, that is so fascinating how that links directly to the world that we live in today. I said, because if you think about it, we kind of have at least three broad categories of people in our community. We have those of us that went to college, went deep in debt, got our student loans, and then went to become slaves on the corporate plantation. We get stuck because we're so deep in debt, like a sharecropper, that you can't ever quit the job, and we're never given any other sort of transferable skills that would allow you to build wealth or create enough of an asset base that you could walk away from that job. That's a lot of us. That's us educated people, right? With the MBAs, BAs, BSs, JDs, PhDs, MDs, whatever other letters behind our name that make us feel like we're better than other people, right? Then you got like the street dudes, right? Some of us got people like that in our family. I got a bunch of them that didn't do all of that, but they out hustling, doing whatever. Well, eventually we know how that ends, right? Because the music glorifies the drug dealer, but they don't show you what happens when they get locked up and get 50-year prison sentences, and then they become part of the labor lease program, which is again just it follows from what they did back at Juneteenth, right? And then you had that third category. You had the third category of people that said, I'm going to be free by any means necessary. And these are the people that I relate to the most. These are the people that I love talking to. These are the people that have the courage and the vision to understand the assignment, who understand what freedom actually looks like, who understand what it really means to be quote unquote successful, who are determined to get there, who are preparing their children for freedom and success. And those are those people that are fighting to get away from the corporate plantation. It doesn't mean, again, I told my daughter, I said, it's okay to work for somebody. I said, but there's a difference between working for somebody because you want to versus working for somebody because you have to.
Right.
And I said, my job as your father is to make sure you always know the difference and that you always have a choice. I want you to have options. I want you to be happy. Happiness is directly linked to options. They find that, for example, when they did a study on rats, and they put rats in a cage, and they would hit them with electric shocks. And they had one group of rats that had no options. They had no ability to stop the shocks. They would just go through pain just randomly, and they didn't know where it was coming from or how to change it. And then they had another group of rats that learned, that created learned behavior, where they gave them an option, where you feel the shock, and then if you hit a button, you can make the pain stop. You can make the pain go away. You can stop the shocks. And they found that when they measured serotonin in the brains of these rats, meaning how depressed they were, they found that the rats that were in the cage that were stuck were more depressed than the rats who had options. So if you want to know why so many of our people struggle with anxiety and depression at epic levels, and we die young because of it, as Miss Asia brought up earlier today in her brilliant way, it's a lot of times because we don't have options. We feel stuck. It sucks to be stuck. So when I talk to my 12-year-old and we're talking about all the things she wants to do, she's a singer, dancer, actress. She's just got this love, and she gets up and gives Emmy Award speeches during the Emmys that nobody asked her to create, but she'll come down in her award dress and will literally give us an acceptance speech, and we're like, ain't nobody gave you nothing, girl. What you doing? But that's what she does. That's in her soul. That's who she is. She makes up dance routines and everything else. Every single day she does this. And so I said, okay, you want to be a dancer and actress and all these other things. I think that's great. Let's go study some models where you can create that life and still have options. Let's study Tyler Perry. How did Tyler Perry build his own economic empire and eventually buy BET? And I said, because Tyler Perry, he doesn't have to audition to be the star of any movie that he ever makes. No. He doesn't have to audition. He gets to pick who the stars are. If Medea's going to be the star, then Medea's going to be the star. I said, let's study that business model. Let's talk about how the economics will play a part in you having what I think is very important for you, which is options, which is connected to something that I know is important to you, which is happiness. So when we talk about what she wants to do when she grows up, I don't even talk about things like professions, or you want to be a dentist or a lawyer or a doctor. I say, no, I just want you to be happy. And I know we can agree on that. We may not agree on whether or not you should be an attorney or a physician, but we can agree that you want to be happy. So let's talk about how the economics connects to your freedom, which connects to your happiness, which also comes with things like knowledge of self. Some people don't even know what makes them happy. They watch TV and they think that material stuff makes them happy. That don't make you happy. That gives you a temporary high, a big injection of dopamine that makes you feel like you're happy for a while. I mean, when I got my first job, when I finished college, I was literally the black sheep of my family. I was a complete embarrassment because I was in school till I was 31 years old. And if you know about anything about black families, you know that guy who's still in school at 28, 29 years old, and you're gonna get made fun of. So I would go to family reunions, and they wouldn't have anything to say to me all the time. They just kind of say, so you still in school, huh? So I got my first job when I was 31 years old. And as JJ mentioned, she was accurate. I was the only black person on the planet, male or female, to get a PhD in finance that year. It was really, really hard to do. The most difficult thing I ever did in my life, right? And I love it though, because it was difficult, and there was some trauma, there was some abuse that me and my wife, we bond around the trauma we experienced going through our PhD program. It's the most petty, crazy, ridiculous space ever. But there's the bright side of that these tough experiences make you a tough person. Right, so ultimately through my therapy journey, which I think JJ was so on point about therapy does wonders for you. I love my therapist. I was supposed to talk to her today, but I'm here, so I can't talk to her. But I've learned how you can actually take these tough experiences and sort of dispose of some of the negative pieces and really use the positives to make you strong. Because if you think about it, every superhero in any Marvel movie, he has a terrible origin story. He or she. There's always like something horrible they had to go through to gain their superpower. And so when I look at my father, who has a horrible origin story, being pushed out of the airplane in Vietnam, the heroin addiction, getting shot at, he's had to kill people in his life several times. I also see the superhero. I see the man who can't be stopped. When my father decides something's going to happen, it would usually happen. When it came time to provide and protect his family, I didn't see some sniveling man at the dinner table complaining about how a white man won't let him take care of his kids. I saw none of that. I saw a man who showed up in the way he needed to show up for the people that needed him to show up in an appropriate way. I saw that and I modeled that and I love that. Right? So I went through my little version of it. I didn't go through anything like what he went through, but I did go through my own version of sort of this academic mistreatment and everything else. So I got out and I got my first job and I was making a lot of money relative to what I was making before. I went from making about $12,000 a year as a grad student to making $115,000 a year as a faculty member. So the amount of money I made in a year became the amount of money I made in a month. So when I got that first paycheck, you can tell me nothing. I thought I won the lottery. I wanted to do cartwheels down the hallway. You talk about money literally making you happy. It did. That day, money was my happiness. And I felt that way for about 6 months until the dopamine kind of wore off. And then at that point, you get what I would almost call almost like an addiction where you're used to the money now. Now you need the money, but getting the check, you just check to make sure it's the right amount. You put it in your account. You don't think about it anymore. And then you got the rest of your life to deal with. So the thing about material things making people happy is interesting to me because I think we're falsely led to believe that that's what matters, but what we don't understand is that eventually all that sort of jubilation levels off, and then you find yourself dealing with the realities of life, and you start wondering things like, why do children of billionaires commit suicide? Or why, when Deion Sanders was the best player in the NFL, was making more money than anybody else, had all the cars, was going to all the parties, owned a couple of mansions, had access to all the ladies, and yet he was so suicidal that he was going to drive himself off a bridge. How does that happen? Well, it's because happiness is much deeper than just the amount of resources you have in your bank account. See, a lot of times, many of us, because we grew up without access to the things we want. I mean, I can tell all these stories about the projects. My mother was 17 when she gave birth to me. I asked my mother, I said, who was in the hospital with you when I was born? And she said, me and the nurse. That was it. I said, nobody else was there? And I knew my father was out running the streets doing whatever. He eventually went to prison for drugs. I didn't know him that well. I don't even know him well enough to dislike him. I don't even dislike him, the man. I just never knew him. But nobody else was there. So I visualized this scared 16-year-old girl being pregnant. She gave birth to me when she was 17. And I visualized, first of all, I said, well, thank you for letting me live, because I'm sure it would have been easier to just terminate, right? That's, no judgment, but that's what society says. If you're poor, then your child shouldn't be born. Obviously, I have to disagree with that. There's really no poverty story a person could tell me that I couldn't relate to on some level. I remember seeing roaches in the house, and it wasn't a big deal to have roaches. And like roaches, you just flick them off your sandwich and keep on eating. You're not gonna throw away a good sandwich just cause a roach took a little bite. And again, some of y'all may think that's gross. That means y'all ain't never been through nothing. No, I'm playing. You ain't never really been hungry if you don't know what I'm talking about. But seriously, so what happens is that when we grow up in those conditions and we grow up struggling and without the things we want, we just tend to sort of fixate our mind on this idea, this false idea, that if I get the right job with the right house and the right car and the right amount of money, then life is just going to be good. And that's just not true. What I compare it to is imagine how you feel when you really have to go to the bathroom. Right? Imagine if I'm an okay speaker, I do my thing, but imagine if I was giving the best speech ever. Like, let's say I was a great speaker like Malcolm X or something. I'm giving the most riveting speech on earth and giving you the knowledge that's going to change your life. But at the same time, you really, really gotta pee. You're just going to explode if you don't get to a bathroom. Are you really going to be able to pay attention in that speech? I mean, remember, it's the best speech ever. I'm telling you how to make $1 billion and be black and powerful. You don't, but you got to pee, right? So at that moment, nothing else matters. You got to get to a bathroom, right? So you just say, gosh, I want to see this speech, but I got to record it for me. And then you hobble into the bathroom, and then finally get to the bathroom. You finally get in there, and you're like, oh, thank you, Jesus. Oh, God. Right? You're happy to finally let it out. right? Okay, so let me ask you, so after you're done and you go wash your hands and everything, hopefully everybody washes their hands. If you don't, you're nasty. What do you do after that? Do you just hang out in the bathroom in case you gotta pee again? You like maybe spend the day in the bathroom for a while, just because peeing was so enjoyable before. Why not just do it all day? Right? No, what do? You walk out of the bathroom and then you get back to doing things that are more important. Right? And it's not that going to the bathroom wasn't important. It was important based on where you were in your life. You needed a bathroom, so bathrooms were really important. Now you don't need a bathroom anymore, so now other things are more important than that. And so life is kind of the same way. They have something they call Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you don't know about it, you should look it up. And they talk about that. They talk about how your level, where you are vibrationally, where you are in terms of what level of life you're on, that determines what really matters to you. Right? So, for example, when I talk to my daughters, our daughters, I get to be the bonus dad of a son. He's 6'8". So if I told you he was my biological child, you would not believe me. But I love being his bonus dad. He's very smart. And two beautiful daughters. Their mother's gorgeous, and their father is a great guy. And we partner together to really make sure these kids are protected and loved. And so with these pretty girls, the best thing I can tell them is not just things about happiness and how money fits into that. But I also say, one of the goals that me, your mother, and your father are going to have for you is to make sure that your financial needs are met well enough. Again, not just because we're giving you things, but because you also understand how to make money, how to preserve money. We want your financial needs to be met well enough so you don't end up in a situation where you got to date a creepy, terrible man just because you can't pay the rent. And in fact, when we were talking earlier about narcissistic abuse, the sister mentioned financial abuse as one method of control that people have over others. And I've seen this a lot. In 2006, I wrote a book called Financial Lovemaking, and I interviewed lots of people, and I was really fascinated by how many people make relationship choices based on economic need. So what I say to them is I want to help you operate at a vibrational frequency high enough where you're not picking a man that's just going to fulfill a financial void. It's okay to be attracted to men who are successful and wealthy and all that. I believe that some of that's biologically wired. Just like men like women that look a certain way or whatever it is that men like, women have things that they tend to be attracted to. So I think that's okay. Maybe the wealth is a symbol of something innate about that man that's appealing to you. And that's perfectly fine. But I don't want you to feel that you have to go and pick a partner just because daddy didn't help you, daddy didn't teach you how to pay the bills, mama, nobody's there for you. So many of our people get abused in relationships because we don't have anybody to turn to. Some of us, many of us in this life, myself included, have gone through abuse, not just relationship abuse, but just societal abuse, because we didn't have anything to lean on. We had no inheritance. We had nobody to turn to for money. And it might show up as some kid who goes out slinging dope in the street because he needs to make an extra $200 or $300 because he just had a baby and he wants to get what the baby needs. So effectively, when you really think about how important money is in terms of just that ability to have a safe, successful, and content existence, I don't understand why we don't train our children on money from the day that they are born. I see so many of our boys, our children, being trained to be great football players, and 99.9% of them ain't never gonna make a nickel playing football. But their parents will spend $1,000 sending their child to football camp. I'm like, that is not an investment. That is fine. I like football. I'm a big football fan. But can't we sort of really think about what should be the priority here? So effectively, when you talk about the use of money as a source of power or abuse or whatever the case may be, and whether money's good or bad, and I loved how Agent put the different beliefs we have about money. Money's the root of all evil, debt is bad. And that's when I realized she was brilliant. And I said, so she brought up Dave Ramsey, because I brought that up before. Debt ain't always bad. Debt is not always good. Debt is just powerful. Money isn't always bad. Money isn't always good. Money's just powerful. It's like a gun. Is a gun bad or good? Well, it depends on what you need the gun for. If you're protecting somebody, if you're protecting your family, then it's a very good thing. If you're using it to commit a robbery, then it's a bad thing. Fire, is fire good or bad? Well, fire can cook your food and keep you warm, or it can burn you and your family alive. So fire can be all these things. So money is very powerful. And here's the thing, here's the problem, here's what we gotta hack into this and understand this issue is that financial abuse that the sister was talking about in terms of relationships, it doesn't just happen in romantic relationships. It also happens in the relationship that black people have had with this country. See, when we talk about things like this is where I scare or confuse people, because I'll talk about integration and I'll sit here and I'll say, gosh, you know, I don't mind the fact that my neighbors are white, and I don't mind the fact that I can go to shop in any store I want to. I never had any issue with white people, unless you're trying to bully me or control me. You know, when my daughter married a guy from Denmark, he's a really nice guy. You know, well, does he treat you well? Do you love him? Yeah, okay, fine. So I never had that issue with anybody who wasn't black. But what I do think about is I ask ourselves, I say, what did integration actually really do for us that I can really point to in terms of saying, okay, we are clearly better off after integration, right? Okay, let me see. Do we have more wealth than we had before integration? No, okay. Because we own more land. We owned 100 times more land in 100 years ago than we do, or 20 times more land, or 50 times. It's some number, I gotta look it up. But we owned a lot more land before integration than we do now. Do we have more businesses now than we did before integration? No, we don't. We traded our businesses in for student loans and corporate jobs. That's what we did. In fact, we used to own a sports league. We had something called the Negro Leagues. We had the Golden Glory Sweepstakes, which is basically a black NASCAR. We had a lot of stuff. Your ancestors weren't just sitting around waiting for people to save them. They were actually building things and creating things out of necessity. Okay, are our families stronger now than they were before integration? Do we have stronger families, or have we kind of fallen off the rail a little bit? No, 76% of all black kids don't even have a daddy in the house, and we don't even think daddies even are important anymore. We think fathers are just this stupid little accessory that you tack on for convenience, when we would never assume that it's okay for 76% of our children to not have a mother in the house. But why do we think it's so normal for 76% of our kids to not have a father in the house? Maybe we need to process that a little bit. So you can go down the list. Educationally, were we better educated before integration or after? I don't know. Well, we got 55 public schools in Chicago that receive probably billions of dollars in funding that don't have one single child that can read or write or do math at grade level. Nah, nope. So when I think about integration, here's what I see. Here's what I visualize. And JJ, let me know when my time is low, because I don't want to over talk. About 10 more minutes, is that okay? Okay, I'm gonna do 10 more minutes. What I visualize with integration is a marriage, and it's an abusive marriage. And it was a scenario where you formed a partnership where perhaps we were misled into believing that we would be equitable partners in this relationship. We thought we were gonna sort of split the power, split the wealth, split the possibility, and that wasn't really the plan. That wasn't the plan. The plan was not to integrate you so you could be equal partners. The plan was to integrate you so that you could become subordinates. The plan was to commodify you. To some extent, black people we're like the KFC chicken that was invited to somebody's house for dinner. So the chicken arrives at the house thinking he's about to eat good, and he don't understand that, no, you are the dinner. We're gonna put you in the middle of the plate. And you're like, ooh, we're gonna put you in the middle of the table. Ooh, I'm gonna be in the middle of the table. I'm getting all the attention, right? And you don't understand. They're gonna carve a piece of your butt off and cook you because you are the commodity. So to some extent, what happened with integration is not, again, this is important to understand. Integration was not a bad concept. Just like marriage. Is marriage bad or good? Well, it depends on who you're married to. Right? It depends on the nature of that relationship. So integration in itself was not a bad or a good concept. But in America, where you're dealing with this concept where unfortunately many whites were led to believe that they were superior to black people, and then also simultaneously, it takes two to tango now, you have a lot of black people, even to this day, who sort of have an inherent inferiority belief. We believe that we're supposed to serve somebody else, right? So it's a perfect combination, like the pimp and the hoe. right? Pimps can't pimp everybody. The pimp would not be able to recruit my daughters because they have high self-esteem. They have fathers, strong fathers that support them. They have access to resources, so they wouldn't be good targets for a pimp. They're both beautiful girls. But if you have that little girl out there who doesn't like herself very much, who doesn't have food to eat, who doesn't have anybody that has her back, who maybe doesn't have a lot of knowledge and education, well then she's gonna be a ready target, and pimps can smell this, predators can smell this. So to some extent in America, remember, capitalism is another one of those things that's very powerful. I don't see it as good or bad, but in America, unfortunately, we are kind of committed to the idea of predatory capitalism. We have a lot of predatory capitalism. I'm not anti-capitalist now. I think capitalism can do wonderful things, but there's some problem with a society that believes that that it's okay that workers' wages have been going down while CEO pay has been just skyrocketing through the roof. There's something wrong with a society where the top 1, 2, 3% of the country is allowed to own half the wealth, right? Like there's something wrong with a society where your government is $31 trillion in debt, and it's largely because there are people who believe wealthy people shouldn't have to pay more in taxes. I looked at that, I saw exactly when the US debt started skyrocketing. Around 2000, President Bush pushed forward tax cuts. And he did that because at the time things looked good and there was a government surplus. And right after that happened, 9/11 occurred, which led to the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, which cost several $trillion. The big financial crisis of 2007 threw us further in debt, because remember, the first thing Obama had to do when he got into office was write a big check of about $700 to $800 billion to bail out the banks. Not to bail out the American people, but we bailed out the banks, we bailed out Wall Street, right? And then a few years later, you have the pandemic. Now the debt to GDP ratio, which is almost like a debt to income ratio. So think about a debt to income ratio if you're trying to buy a house. So the debt to GDP ratio went from maybe about 50% in the 1960s to being 165% today. So effectively, if you think about it like this. The US government has $31 trillion in debt. Annual tax revenue is about $4.5 to $5 trillion. That's like a person making $45,000 a year being $300,000 in debt. So if you had a friend that was $300,000 in debt, but they were making $45,000 a year, would that person be financially secure? Would you say that that person's in a good financial situation? No, you would not. So that's what your government looks like. So effectively, to some extent, America is a country that has this interesting history where not only do we have the racism, but it sort of bleeds into the capitalism, and the predatory capitalism just kind of says we're going to prey on anybody who's weak, not just because you're black. We don't hate you just because you're black. We might hate you because you're poor or because you're not one of the wealthy and powerful in this country. So what is the solution? What's the best way to kind of look at this? What does this mean? Well, I do have this book. Feel free to take a look at it. It's called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. Now, I wrote this book mainly because it is my firm belief that in order for us to improve our economic condition, we must address the economic culture that exists in our families. We have to stop raising our kids to make them believe that the highest height they can ascend to is to get a nice job with a nice office and then go run off and live in a white neighborhood. That can't do. Now that's okay if that's what people do. I'm not judging that. What I'm saying though is that you have a lot of people, a lot of children that are so smart that they could become the billionaires that fund and create thousands of jobs. They could become the captains of industry, but instead the little kid is 16 years old and he's good with computers, and somebody, what do they say? Oh, you're gonna get you a good job. Hey, that's what they used to say to me. And so here's the thing you gotta understand is that if you look at Elon Musk, one of the richest men on the planet, Elon Musk is pretty much just an engineer who also learned how to be an entrepreneur, who took some risks and took his engineering skill and scaled that up into something where he's been able to create over 500,000 jobs, mostly for his community. If you look at the history of Jeff Bezos, another man who's worth over $100 billion, who created Amazon, if you look at his history, I've studied these guys. I like to reverse engineer. If you're doing something that's working, I would study that. Well, Jeff Bezos was just a techie kid, like a lot of our kids in our community, who then decided to take a chance to become an entrepreneur. He walked away from a very good, high-paying job. People told him he was stupid for doing this. And he went and he sat in a training class, a free class on how to become a librarian, how to run a bookstore. So he's sitting next to these librarians taking notes on how to run a bookstore. I kid you not. And that is literally the origin of Amazon. So my point is to say this, and this is what we'll end with, is I think we can do so much better. Yes. I believe deeply in the idea that we are just sitting on the secret sauce, that we got the juice. We are everything that we need. We are the $1 trillion commodity that we've been looking for. I believe the gold is buried right in your backyard, and you ain't got to go down the street, around the block. You ain't got to sell your kids into corporate slavery. You ain't got to go to places where you're not wanted to find opportunity. I believe that you have the ability to manifest realities that are so extraordinary that even you don't understand how amazing they're going to be. But all we need is the confidence and the discipline and the commitment to developing a culture that allows us to fully manifest and create those realities. Take those kids that might want to be great basketball and football players and create an army of black entrepreneurs. Buy stock for your children from the time they're born, and then if you do that, and they will have so much money by the time they're 25 or 30. If you consistently buy them stock from the time they're born, by the time they're 30, they'll have so much money they'll never have to work for anybody. If you don't believe me, go to my website, BoyceWatkins.com. I have something there called a $5 a day investing plan. I had to create this because I had so many people that were giving me pushback because they've been led to the false belief that black people can't build any wealth, that black people don't have enough money to invest. So I said, okay, well, can black people afford chicken? They said, yeah. I said, absolutely. If I put a Popeye's chicken in the poorest neighborhood in America, in one day there'll be a line out the door, around the corner, down the block, full of people that shouldn't be eating chicken. You know what I'm talking about. So let's pick $5 a day, which you can't even buy a Popeye's chicken value meal for $5. So if a person invests $5 a day consistently in any S&P 500 index fund, Victor, Oscar, VOO is one that you can pick if you want one, if you want to start that for your child, or SPY, that's another one. If you do $5 a day in any S&P 500 fund as a gift to that newborn baby, by the time the child is 10, they have approximately $21,000. By the time the child is 20, they have approximately $102,000. By the time the child is 30, they have approximately $250,000. By the time they're 40, they have approximately $750,000. At that point, you're not poor anymore. In fact, after the first decade, you're not poor anymore. There's nobody that's liquid that has $20, $30, $40, $50,000 in the bank that could call themselves poor. What does that do? That changes the game. That means they don't have to spend their lives in slavery. That means they don't have to spend their lives doing work they don't want to do. They don't have to spend their lives in places that they're not wanted. They can actually go be free and manifest and live the life they're supposed to live. So let's do that for our kids, and let's make our people great, because that's what we deserve, and I believe it to the core of my heart. Yes. Thank you all very much for listening. I
appreciate it. Juneteenth, yeah! What's up? It's UltraCubby. Now, I have a video, and I'm really sorry I am missing Juneteenth 2026 in Tulsa. But it's for a good reason. My team made it to the Little League World Series. Whoop, whoop. And I'm going to be in Broken Bow, sadly, to miss all the great speakers. Jonas with the bonus, Miss Tiana Von Johnson, and Brother Bedford. All the greats. And I'm really sad I can't be there. But I got a little song so I can still be part of this. I was down, but now Up. I was down, but now I'm down. I'm up like seesaw when I'm gonna beat like an old man's lawn. Better keep off from the ground to the treetops. Black clouds on my feet like Jack and the Beanstalk. Jumped off quiver straight in a free fall. Cowboy hat and my singing hee-haw. Leaning on my feet like a feline. Put him back in the seat like a recline. What you mean I'm not worthy? Did it with a purpose. Then your permit. Fingers to the bottom and I brought it to the surface. Low business down the white word. Ooh, little guy making big news. Tick-tock turn to a tick-tick-tick. Boom. Yeah, I talk a lot of stuff. Probably thought it was the bluff. Till I went and turned it where I was done. But now bye.
I grew up in Flint, Michigan during the 60s, and as a child, I can remember the civil rights movement. I remember our family huddling around our small black and white TV, and we'd watch all of the things that were going on in Alabama and Mississippi. Some of my older cousins were active in the movement, and each week we would have a large Sunday dinner with the extended family, and they would come back and tell us about all of the things that they had seen and done. As a child of about 8 or 9 years old, I always wanted to grow up and be a part of the movement, but by the time I became of age, it was all over. All of the marching was done. I always felt left out, that I didn't get a chance to participate in the civil rights movement. But little did I know that God had another plan for me as a computer instructor and database developer. But even then, it bothered me that I didn't see many people of color in my classes. That is when journalist Dr. John Ray introduced me to Dr. Joel Dudley Sr. and Dr. Eunice Dudley of Dudley Products, who had been mentored by the millionaire S.B. Fuller. Through Dr. Dudley, I was introduced to Dr. Lafayette Jones, past Vice President of Marketing for John H. Johnson of Johnson Publishing, and his wife, Sandra Miller Jones, who was the Vice President at Quaker Oats, and together they created SMSI, a national marketing firm. Dr. George C. Frazier of FrazierNet and the Power Networking Conference, Dr. Jackie Mayfield of ComproTax, founder of the largest Black-owned income tax service, and even billionaire Michael B. Roberts. They all believe that the way to close the wealth gap is through entrepreneurship, because we as a people had to overcome slavery, and secondly, obtain our civil rights to be able to eat in any restaurant or stay at any hotel that we wanted. But the third piece is economic equality. And now I am also convinced that we must become entrepreneurs, and to do so we must embrace technology and a strategy of global networking. That is why I created Every.Black, to use my vast experience as a computer instructor to teach entrepreneurs how to use technology and artificial intelligence in business. Every.Black members are listed in our promoted in our digital newsletter, on social media, and on our podcast. And we conduct read positive books, learn from experts, networking with like-minded individuals from around the world, educating them about every aspect of becoming a successful entrepreneur. That is what Every.Black is all about. Just go to www.every.black to take the AI and tech classes you need, to register for our mastermind meetings, and to join the Every.Black family. Visit us at www.every.black and sign up today. Just go to Every.Black, every.black. No .com, no .net, just Every.Black. .black is the new .com.
To tell you the story or celebrate the lives of S.B. Fuller and Dr. Joel Dudley Sr. And there's a method quote at the bottom that says, methods are many, principles are few. Methods may change, but the principles never do. So maybe they don't have the tools that we have today, but those principles of being successful entrepreneurs are the same. So as you watch this presentation, I was going to ask each of you to pick out 3 things and write them down that resonated with you, 3 principles of entrepreneurship that still could be practiced today to become, to help you become a successful entrepreneur. First, I want to tell you about S.B. Fuller. He was born June 4th, 1905 in Louisiana and passed away October 24th, 1988. And from Louisiana, he moved on to St. Louis and he started a business selling women's apparel. but the local sheriff actually came to him and told him that he had to stop selling the dresses because he was taking away business from the local businesses. And his customers were told that they had to return the dresses, to return the clothing, get their money back. And if they did not, then they would have lost their jobs. So he was fed up with what he called masterism, and literally started walking to Chicago to escape St. Louis at that time. He was self-educated with only 18 months of formal education. He was a self-taught person. He started with $25 selling soap, created soap, and he eventually created a company bringing in over 18 million a year. What he did with the soap is he shaved the name off of the soap and put his own label on the soap and started selling the soap door to door. Now, there's some obviously other things that he did as well, but that's how he got started. Ultimately, he employed thousands of people. He mentored thousands of entrepreneurs through weekly mastermind meetings. It didn't matter what type of business you have. And he was a believer in self-reliance. And during the Montgomery bus boycott with Rosa Parks and Dr. Martin Luther King, S.B. Fuller recommended to Dr. King to just buy the bus line, and then it wouldn't be an issue where everyone rode on the bus. But Dr. King decided not to do that. But that was just his mentality, to be the owner and not at the mercy of someone else. There were two books that he based his business on. One was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which he knew. He knew Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill would speak at some of his conferences, and also the Holy Bible. What he did also, he had chemists to actually manufacture his own products, and he brought in chemists from around the world. And again, this Fuller sales kit is listed at the bottom, which people could get for $10 to start selling Fuller products. These are some images of the conferences they had. And if you notice in this image, there's a Cadillac. So he would give away a Cadillac to the top salesperson each year. And these conferences would be held in Chicago at the Palmer Hotel in Chicago. And even though they had this many people attending the conferences, they still could not reserve their rooms through the main lobby. They had to get their rooms assigned off-site so that there wouldn't be that many Black folks in the lobby of the hotel. So the top picture is the products building. They had a department store. They had a Regal theater. He also bought out newspapers, Black newspapers that were maybe going under. He would buy them out and turn them around. And so again, some of the people that he mentioned through weekly mastermind meetings like the ones we're doing right now were John H. Johnson of Jet Ebony Magazine, George Johnson of Afrosheen and Ultrasheen. And a lot of people don't realize he also mentioned Mary Kay Cosmetics. And to give you some information about Dr. Dudley, he was labeled mentally retarded at a very young age. He grew up really in poverty in Aurora, Illinois, with 10 siblings. But he made a covenant with God as a young person that if God would deliver him from that poverty and flies, he said they couldn't even have a dinner without somebody had to stand over with everyone else trying to eat and shoo away the flies. He said if God would deliver him from that life, then he would spend the rest of his life helping others. And that's what he did. So he started with $10 buying a Fuller sales kit from S.B. Fuller's company. And he and his wife ultimately created a company bringing in nearly $36 million a year through Dudley products, and had employed over 600 people at one time. But he also trained over 30,000 cosmetologists in the U.S., Brazil, and Zimbabwe, and in Africa. And they also had training schools throughout the U.S., by the way, in Chicago, Washington, D.C., some of the schools are still in operation in the Greensboro area, in Charlotte. And he mentored thousands of entrepreneurs through the mastermind meetings as promised S.B. Fuller. When S.B. Fuller died, Joe Dudley promised that he would continue the weekly meetings, and that's what he did. And he also believed in self-reliance, believing that we can do it ourselves.
I was labeled mentally retarded. They told my mother, Clara, that I would never be anybody. She says all the other 10 kids would make it, but this Joe won't make it. And Mama told me to fool him, Joe. So I've been trying to do that for a while. I wasn't a good student. I had girls on my mind. I went with this girl for 23 months. And she came to me one day and she said, Joe, I want to get married. Oh, I was so excited, I didn't know what to do. I was just excited, I'm telling you. And she says, but it's not you. Now that was a disappointment. So I said, well, who is it? I said, I bet you it's not so-and-so. She said, yes. Oh my God, I got mad because he was helping her get her homework. I couldn't even get my own homework. But I wasn't jealous of him because really I thought he was ugly. She said, I want some smart kids. And you are not smart. I made up my mind. I told her, I said, well, you're gonna have ugly kids. They may be smart, but they're gonna be ugly. So I made up my mind that day that I was gonna put something in my head, and nobody could ever take that away from me. That was a turning point in my life. You know, sometimes we think what's the worst that happened to us, but many times what's the worst thing happened to you is the best thing. For that smart boy taking my girlfriend, it changed my life.
For the first time, we are hearing from family since the passing of Dr. Joe L. Dudley Sr.'s family. His name synonymous with entrepreneurship and philanthropy, as he was the co-founder of Dudley Hair Care. Today, his family shares his legacy with you.
The most important piece is where he started, and that's in Brooklyn, New York, with Mr. S.B. Fuller and Fuller Products. And he took $10, bought a sales kit, and his life changed, ever since then. The next big thing, of course, was meeting my mother, and the two of them, forming a partnership and a marriage at the same time, and then moving to Greensboro to start their own distributorship. We started selling products in beauty salons and barbershops as well, and things really started booming. My father was such a visionary. He and my mother as partners made such a tremendous impact and had so many ideas. I mean, we had the beauty schools, we had the advanced school, we had a travel agency, a radio station, a hotel. If they thought about it, they made it happen. He, really instilled in me and all of us a great work ethic. He taught us the value of work, but he also taught us the value of being kind, to people and meeting them where they are. And he always told us and anybody else, if you're having trouble, if you're excited about something, if you need that extra boost, to say, I am, I can, and I will. There are people all over the world who are in business because of my father and my mother. And that is what excited him the most.
So I want to bring to the stage our wonderful speaker, the author of that fabulous book, Ina Johnson Meyers, who's going to talk to us about Are You at Risk for Narcissistic Abuse? Ina, welcome to the stage.
Thank you.
Thank you. And good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Something that I ask people often. Are you at risk of being a victim of narcissistic abuse? What about your daughters? Even though severe narcissism and narcissistic abuse narcissism affects both men and women,
I speak from a woman's perspective because of the experiences that I've had throughout my life and beyond. I am Ina Johnson Meyers. I'm a 24-year retired Army combat veteran, a 4-time best-selling author, the CEO of When She Rides, and a resiliency coach. I help women understand the difference between healthy and narcissistic loving relationships. I understand that many times when they deal with this stuff, they're doing it while they're raising children. Broken and abused women will raise broken and or abused children. And the generational cycle starts all over again because that is what normal is like for them. Prior to the COVID pandemic, psychologists were already reporting that over 158 million people in the US alone was affected by narcissistic abuse. They also reported that those numbers are low because they can't account for the parents or the children that are affected by that generational cycle. The numbers worldwide are like 450 million. Again, those are low numbers because they can't account for the generational cycle of that. When we see a woman that is physically abused, people are very apt to help that person because they see the physical parts of the abuse. But when someone is narcissistically abused, they're abused emotionally, financially, mentally, sexually. The desire of the narcissistic person is to strip everything that made that person, to strip everything from them so that that person will be subservient to him and to just serve that person. Even though they got into a relationship with that person because of all the qualities, the empathy, the love, all of that, their function in that relationship is to absorb all of that stuff from them so that, like I said, they're being very subservient. Like psychologists, when we talk about narcissistic abuse, narcissism is a scale. The low scale is like selfies and selfish part. But when we talk about narcissistic personality disorder or narcissistic abuse, we're talking about the high scale. Psychologists categorize narcissistic personality disorder as a cluster B personality disorder. Also categorized as a cluster B personality disorder are sociopaths and psychopaths. And when you, like I said, for people that deal with narcissistic abuse, oftentimes they see many of those different personality disorders in that one person. With narcissistic personality disorder, because it's so charming, it's like the very sexy, funny, charming, physically fit brother in the socio and psychopath family. However, the end result is still going to be the sociopath, psychopath family. And the reason why it takes people so long to get out of it, psychologists say it takes a person over maybe the average of 7 times to get out of that relationship because of the charm. So it's charm and abuse, charm and abuse. Oftentimes the victims are waiting for that charm to come back. That's why they stay in the relationship for so long. You heard JJ say that people ask, why did you stay there for so long? It is really hard to accept that the person that you're living with hates you, and they've hated you from day one. You feel that, but you think you're being overly sensitive. You see it, but you think he can't pretend that he loves me in public, but really, has this great disdain for me. That's why people stay in it for so long, because they cannot believe that the person they sleep with has a great disdain for them. But it's not anything that you've done. It has nothing to do with you. Being in a relationship with someone that has narcissistic personality disorder or the traits, because it has everything to do with them and not you. When you deal with narcissism, people oftentimes will ask you, well, is he diagnosed? The way we diagnose, the way the US or the APA diagnose narcissistic personality disorder is contradictory to itself, because it tells you that narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder, they have no conscience and no empathy, just like sociopaths and psychopaths. But in order for someone to get diagnosed, they have to decide for themselves that they're so tired of abusing someone that they're going to go seek help themselves. However, the traits and mannerisms tell you that that person has no concern about his actions. So he would never think that he's abusing you too much. So with that being said, whether the person is diagnosed or not, the victim feels the same abuse, the victim feels the same devalue, the victim feels the same, trauma that someone that's diagnosed is. So a diagnosis has nothing to do with how the narcissist uses the victims. Because of the pandemic, or before the pandemic, oftentimes victims were able to justify the abuse because someone had to go to work, someone had to go on a business trip, someone had to go somewhere. After COVID, or when COVID happened, the abuser and the victim were locked in together. So we saw the rise in phone calls to the police and to people going to the hospital because of the actual abuse. In the military, when I first started this journey, I didn't understand, in all honesty, how the military conditioned me to accept things not being right. The military conditioned me to, when I stood up for my rights, I got ostracized. So when I started, fighting for my rights, now I have to do whatever I can to get in people's good graces, because now I'm the female that wants her rights. So that kind of conditioned me to say, or to, when I see something like that, to ignore it or to excuse it away. As we deal with our children, narcissistic personality disorder is something that develops as youth, as adolescents. So it's already happening in our schools. Our children, our high school children, our junior high school children, they're already dealing with it. But because of how they diagnose it, they won't diagnose anyone younger than 18. So by the time they're in high school, or by the time they're in college, or in life, now they've become abusers because nothing has been caught earlier. And this isn't about just staying in that pain, staying in that toxicity. God built us wonderfully and fearfully. So as I speak with women about understanding the difference between healthy and narcissistic love relationships, I also teach them the Christian approach to dealing with that. There's no need to stay in that dark place. There's no need to stay in that toxicity. God wants us to, endure. God wants us to live a very fruitful life. So as we do the work to empower women, as we do the work to impact their lives, keep in mind, and I want each and every one of you to keep in mind, that the devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy. So as we grow in our careers, as we grow our finances, as we grow our businesses, be mindful that not everyone that smiles at you has your best interest. Be mindful of your family and friends that, their soul is broken and you're trying to figure out what's wrong with you when you have that really great person because he is so nice, he is so this. We would never tell someone that is with someone that's a sociopath or psychopath that you should be happy you have that man. You should go work it out. And oftentimes when we tell some people in church about it, they give us the advice that we need to pray more, we need to be more submissive, we need to, do more things so that as the person that is abusing you, maybe they won't abuse you so much. It's really important that as you go get the counseling and the coaching that you need, you get it from qualified people. Not everybody that has a degree to be a therapist understands trauma. Trauma is a specialty. So when you go to someone that does not have that special or the specialty in trauma, they're liable to traumatize you even more. So as we go through the healing journey, as we go through the things that, as we empower ourselves, as we build these companies, as we build these billion-dollar corporations, know that that is a recipe for someone to come into your life that may be too good to be true, because you don't have the time to really deal with the relationships. So you think this person is so good, came into my life at such a great time. Oftentimes when you are growing, when you have like I said, the businesses, the money, the cars, the house, that allows someone that has that mindset to want to be a part of your life. And once they are a part of your life, that's them ciphering everything that they wanted you for, ciphering for themselves. Narcissistic abuse is very debilitating. It's very mind, consuming. So as we go through these things, ladies, just be very cognizant of your relationships. When you see what you see and when you hear what you hear, believe it. God gave us an amazing alarm system. It's called intuition. Do not turn it off because someone is so cute, someone is so sexy, someone is so whatever. God gave you this alarm system and use it. I am Ina Johnson Meyers, and I honor you all and I thank you all, and I want everybody to be empowered and to operate in the grace and the mercies and the love that God has for them. Yes. Thank you.
My name is Robert Cooper. I'm a family engagement specialist. I'm an author of A Young Man's Cry, founder of Young Men Becoming Men. What's your definition of a leader?
Not copying others.
Not copying others. You gotta find stuff that you love about yourself. Because I wish somebody did this with me when I was your age. Life is real, but we have to be willing and open to learn. You see your future out there? Test score does not define who you are. What defines who you are? Your character, your goals, your morals, how you carry yourself.
Hey, everyone. My name is Dr. LaToya Wiggins, and I transition moms from worn out to winning. I teach them how to no longer feel depleted, but how to develop healthy habits to be nourished, renewed, and rejuvenated with biblical principles that bring peace instead of self-pity. Right now, I want you all to yell out, type it in the chat. I am ready to win in every area of my life. Again, I am ready to win in every area of my life. See, when I win, everyone connected to me wins, okay? That's what I call creating a legacy. What I do to take care of myself, it impacts those around me, impacts my family, my friends, again, everyone connected with me. And that's what we are talking about here today. Legacy, okay? Legacy for Black people. I want you all to learn how to take care of yourself so you can win in every area of your life, okay? Black people, we are not enslaved, so we need to get out the slave mentality and learn how to actually rest, learn how to actually nourish ourselves, do what we need to do to take great care of ourselves so we put ourselves in great position to succeed, and our children, those around us, we put them in the position to succeed as well, okay? We set them up for success by what we do to take care of ourselves, okay? So today I'm here to teach you how to transition from worn out to winning, and that is by prioritizing your self-care, okay? When I talk about self-care, I'm not talking about pampering yourself, getting your hair done, your nails done, all that stuff is nice. I'm not saying not to do them, but I need you to make sure that you are doing deep inner work. I need to make sure that you are nourishing yourself mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So we need to take steps to nourish ourselves in any way that will bring peace and joy into our lives. When we take care of ourselves, our family sees how to take great care of ourselves too, right? We're teaching them how to prioritize their self-care. Self-care is so important because in the Black community, depression is high. Black people are suffering from depression at a rate 4% compared to white people at 3%, okay? Women in general suffer from depression and anxiety more than men. But when you include race into the mix, Black women are suffering more, okay? Black people in general are experiencing symptoms of emotional distress, and they have to work harder, twice as harder than anybody else to succeed, to do what they need to do to get done, but it is literally killing them. The rate of suicide in Black people is rising drastically much faster than other racial groups. So Black people, I need you to prioritize your self-care. Do what you need to do to prioritize peace and joy in your lives, okay? So I'm going to teach you how to prioritize your self-care by teaching you how to create your own winning self-care manual, all right? So before I get started in how to start prioritizing your self-care and creating your self-care manual, I want to just talk about why I'm so passionate about the topic of self-care. So as a self-care strategist, a doctor of physical therapy, a very busy mom of 3 boys, and a wife, I know the importance of prioritizing self-care, and I have seen the bad effects, those bad things that occur when I'm not prioritizing my self-care. Because although right now I feel like a winning woman, it was not always that way. I was truly a worn out woman, a worn out mom. So back in February 2021, in the middle of the pandemic, I had my 3rd son, the third and the last, as I like to say. And I had a very difficult time transitioning from a mom of 2 to 3. I felt like I was being stretched thin, trying to give my love, my care, my attention to all 3 kids. And let's not forget about my husband. But nobody was getting the best of me. I was often walking around grumpy, irritated, impatient, unhappy. I felt like I was a ticking time bomb just waiting to explode. And I remember one day waking up already feeling like, I was just dreading the day as soon as I opened up my eyes. I went downstairs and just saw a mess everywhere. Toys everywhere, dishes everywhere, crumbs all over the floor. And that ticking time bomb did indeed explode. I began yelling and screaming at my family, those people who I love the most, telling them how much they were getting on my nerves, the last one, how much I was sick and tired of having to clean up after them, how nobody was helping me. And I remember just walking around rage cleaning, just picking up things, flinging it here, flinging it there, putting it away in that angry way. And then another feeling of overwhelm came over me and I needed another release. So I remember running upstairs to my bedroom. I sat on the floor and just cried my heart out, wondering what is wrong with me, asking God to please help me. I was so sick and tired of feeling angry and sad every single day. I knew how to practice self-care. I did it after I had my 2nd son, but it just was not working this time. What was wrong with me? So after I sat there and cried my heart out, I just told myself, LaToya, it is time to get it together and get the help that you need. That's what I needed to do. I needed to get help, support, and accountability, just like I teach other moms, other women to do. Get the support and accountability you need so you can heal. So I knew I had to strengthen my relationship with God because that was so important to me, and seek clarity from Him on how to heal, what to do. in this season of my life, what to do in life, period, right? And I started seeing a mental health therapist, something I was so stubborn about doing. But that's when my healing journey began. So the more I strengthened my relationship with God and I was seeing the mental health therapist, I began doing things that nourished me in that season of life. Because what was working before, it just wasn't working now. So I started finding what nourished me in this season of my life with 3 boys, figuring out those activities that gave me energy, mentally and physically. So I started taking better care of my body, getting more exercise in. I had the, energy to keep up with these busy boys of mine. The more I prioritized, being a woman of God, I began practicing more patience and peace and calmness, even when I feel like I'm in the middle of chaos. I started getting back to business, which was something I thoroughly enjoyed, speaking and coaching beautiful people like you all, teaching about health and wellness. I started socializing more instead of isolating myself, which I was doing because I just didn't want to be around people. The therapist was helping me heal what was undiagnosed depression and anxiety. And today, I'm not the perfect person, right? Nobody's perfect. But having more clarity on how to be the mom, the wife, the woman that God has created me to be, these things make me feel like a winning woman and no longer a worn out woman anymore, okay? So I want you all to figure out, find what nourishes you and start prioritizing those things, okay? And you can do that by creating your own winning self-care manual. And you're going to do that by using my peace framework, PEACE, peace, because that's what we are creating, right? Peace, to combat the stress, the burnout, the overwhelm, minimize it, prevent it altogether, take better care of our health, mentally and physically, okay? We want to take better care of our minds and bodies. It can start by using the P in the peace framework. And the P stands for permission to say yes to yourself, okay? Type it in the chat. Yell it out loud. Permission to say yes to yourself. You are giving yourself permission to say yes to those things that you desire, those things that you feel called to do, those things that you know are going to give you peace and joy, okay? And when you start saying yes, just know that you are going to have to start saying that beautiful 2-letter word, no. N-O exclamation point, okay? No explanation is not needed. Start saying no to those things that no longer serve you, those things that are not helping you to fulfill your purpose, those things that are draining you, depleting you, making you feel like a worn out woman or a worn out man. Okay? Just know that self-care is not selfish. Everyone benefits when we take great care of ourselves. You are able to put the best of yourself in everything that you do instead of what is left of you. That goes for your family, your home, your family, your friends, your business, your employees, your employer, your ministries, whatever. Everyone benefits when you take great care of yourself, okay? I want you to move on to the E in the peace framework. And the E stands for evaluate your current self-care manual. So I know you may not have a physical copy of your self-care manual, but let's take a look up here. What's going on in your brain, okay? We want to know what's going well and what's not going so well. We want to know what's going well because if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? But a lot of times we have these activities that we know nourishes us, but we've gotten away from those activities. You know, life be lifing, as they say these days. Just life gets busy and maybe you haven't prioritized those activities. Maybe you haven't done them in so long you forgot about them. I want you to write those activities down so you can get back to doing them, whether it's on a daily basis, a weekly basis, monthly, whatever. And now we need to know what's not going so well so we can fix those problems. What's not going so well in your life? Are you not getting enough sleep at night? Maybe you're not feeding yourself healthy, nutritious foods. You're still eating the unhealthy soul food every single day, right? It's okay with a little bit of, here and there, but every day or too often, Maybe you're putting too many things on your to-do list. Maybe things that you do want to do, but you're not prioritizing what's most important in this season of your life. Maybe you're putting too many things on your to-do list because you feel obligated to do those things, but you don't even want to. Maybe you are not asking for help or not accepting the help, being Superwoman or Superman. Maybe you are prioritizing being a perfectionist and not allowing other people to help you. You're not delegating enough because you just want to have control over everything. Make sure it's done your way. What's not going so well that is draining you, that is depleting you, that's causing you this mental, emotional distress? And then you move to the A in the peace framework. And the A, you are going to assess areas for action and abundance. So you gave yourself permission to say yes to some activities or those things that you want to start doing, no to some things. You have evaluated what's going well and what's not going so well. So what areas do you want to have abundance in? Maybe you know that you are feeling drained physically, maybe it's mentally. So maybe you need to start prioritizing your physical nourishment, your mental nourishment, finding time to have some alone time, finding time to do some nourishing activities with others, your children, your spouse or partner, your friends, whatever, nourishing relationships, not just doing things that other people want to do, but actually doing things that you enjoy too, right? Maybe you need to manage your time better. Have a more organized day, maybe be more productive in your thoughts. Have a way to brain dump, get all the racing thoughts out of your mind in a healthy way. What do you need to do to bring peace and joy in your life? Handle that mental nourishment, the physical nourishment, the spiritual nourishment. Get some clarity from God on exactly what you should be prioritizing in the season of your life. What exactly your purpose is, so you can start walking, doing fulfilling work and not meaningless work. What areas do you want to have abundance in? Want to assess them and have abundance in it, okay? Next, we are moving on to the C in the peace framework. And the C, you are going to cancel any kind of guilt. So if you're a mom like me, you're going to cancel the mom guilt, whatever kind of guilt it is, whether you're a mom or not. Cancel that guilt, the negative thoughts, and the self-sabotage. So a lot of times when we start doing great things for ourselves, we start to feel guilty. You feel like if I start making more time to do X, Y, Z for myself, it's taking away from time with the kids. It's taking time away from my husband. It's taking time away from my friends or my business, whatever it is. Anytime those thoughts creep up on you, acknowledge them, but then remind yourself of your why. Why am I doing this activity? Why am I doing this task? Who is going to benefit from me doing this activity? Because it's not just you. If it's just you, it might be a little selfish. But when we take great care of ourselves, everyone benefits. So remind yourself of your why and who is going to benefit from you just taking 5 extra minutes of quiet time. 5 extra minutes to do something nourishing to your body. Whatever it is, remind yourself of your why. You may have to cancel the negative thoughts of others. They may look at you and say, for example, let's say you're working on your weight loss goal or getting healthier. They say, oh, her skin is glowing. She's losing weight. She's looking slim and trim. She thinks she's all that. Guess what? If they have something negative to say about you doing something great for yourself, that is a them issue, not a you issue. They need to get on track with what you're doing and start prioritizing themselves, their self-care, and start nourishing themselves mentally, emotionally, physically, or whatever it is that they need to do to heal whatever's going on in them. So cancel those negative thoughts, remind yourself of your why, and keep it moving, all right? And now that brings us to the last E in the peace framework, and that is execute. Execute your new winning self-care manual, all right? Type it in the chat. Execute your new winning self-care manual. So now that you're you are going to execute these new goals, these new ways of nourishing yourself, I want you to start small. Start with small, measurable goals. Because when you start big, you're trying to do all these goals right away. You want to accomplish things faster instead of sooner than later. A lot of times you will set yourself up for failure, not success. You set yourself up for failure. You quickly fail. And sometimes it's hard for us to get back on track when we fail because we become discouraged. So start with small, measurable goals. I don't care what it is. You want to start having more quiet time at night? Start with 5 minutes if that's all you got. You want to start getting more hours of sleep and you're only getting 4 instead of 8, maybe increase it by 1 hour. Get 5 hours instead of 4. Start eating healthy and you're not eating healthy at all. Start with 1 day or 2 days or 1 healthy meal a day. Whatever it is, start small, master that habit, and then you can increase to get to your ultimate goal, okay? Do not be afraid to start small. It adds up, okay? 10 minutes of exercise here and there is okay, instead of you trying to rush and do a whole hour and you have never exercised a day in your life, right? Start small, okay? Surround yourself with community, like-minded people who are working on similar goals as you are. So if you're working on a business plan or business goals, you want to surround yourself with other people working on similar goals, okay? Weight loss goals or just fitness goals. Connect with those people who are already working on similar goals as you. Don't try to use your good girlfriend who has no interest in losing weight or exercising at all to hold you accountable. Connect with those people who are going to hold you accountable, kick you in the butt whenever you fall off, or just keep you on track, period, with much encouragement, all right? Connect with the experts. So you want to, I told you, don't rush to get to your goals fast, but connect with those experts who can give you the right strategies, help you put a good plan in place so you can get to your goals sooner than later. Have you go in the right direction instead of you just trying to figure things out on your own, okay? So it is a coach for everything. So if you need to connect with a success coach, career coach, a fitness coach, a health coach, a wellness coach, a self-care strategist, your mental health therapist, a dietitian, nutrition, I can keep on going. Connect with the experts who can help you with whatever goal it is that you're working on. All right. I don't want to leave you all hanging. So be sure to connect with me at She is a Nourished Mom on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And go to www.sheisanourishedmom.com to download your free Busy Christian Mom Self-Care Workbook. This workbook will help you go through these steps that we just talked about today. All right. My name is Dr. LaToya Wiggins, and I want you to know that a nourished woman is a winning woman. A nourished man is a winning man. Bye-bye.
When I plan a conference, I think, what do I need to get out of it? Other than the networking, other than being mentored by the headliners, what do I need to get out of this? And one of the things I think we all need to get out of is learning how to create multiple streams. And so our next speaker today, Krystal Vernee, she is going to talk about brand builder, BuildHER, H-E-R, blueprint, creating multiple income streams. Now look, I think all the speakers in here who speak primarily to women can say the same thing that I'm about to say, which is we speak to women and a few good men. So if you're a good man today, I'm sure the content will apply to you as well. Let's welcome to the stage, Krystal Vernee.
All right, thank you so much, JJ. Thank you, everybody. It's been a wealth of knowledge, gems dropped today, and I hope you guys are having a great time. Am I in the good zone? That's what I'm just saying.
You're beautiful.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm Krystal Vernee, and I'm a serial womanpreneur, speaker, author, business coach, and a brand strategist. And I want to talk to you guys today about creating multiple income streams. And I think a lot of people think they got to start a bazillion businesses to have multiple income streams, but you really don't have to do that. So I want to share with you guys a little bit about my story, my journey, and how I've been able to do that, because I have 4 businesses right now, but I certainly didn't start out that way. So entrepreneurship has always been in my blood. I started my first business at the age of 16. So I started a vintage and designer handbag store on eBay. And I got suppliers, I pre-sold customers, and I was 16. And I did it without my mom's permission. But it went really well. I made $16,000 my very first month. So this is back when you still had to call the internet. So this was dial-up internet at an eBay store. Yes. Needless to say, my mom's very traditional. So she was unhappy. And when I tell you she unplugged everything in the house, I mean everything. The lights, the computer, anything that had a plug, she unplugged it because she did not understand what was happening. But very traditional, and so education was the most important thing in my household. So it had already been decided, because I come from a long line of educators, long. It had been decided that I was going to go to school, get a good job, go be a teacher. That was it. That was my trajectory. And because I didn't want to disappoint my mother, I was like, okay. So I let it go, went to school, went to a great school, an Ivy League school, got an engineering degree. But in the back of my mind, I was like, I really want to be an entrepreneur. I really want to do this thing. So graduated college, got a sales job right outside of school, 100% commission. And I had another opportunity to become an entrepreneur. So the big promise was I could own my own office, build a team, and that was gonna be my business. I was so excited. But at the same time, I was dating my high school sweetheart. He, like my mom, very traditional. And so after much discussion, that was when I got the biggest ultimatum of my life to that point, which was, if you don't get a 9 to 5, I will not marry you. So because I was raised that was what I was supposed to do, and that was my trajectory, and I had spent I was young, y'all, I was in my 20s, young, so I had spent quite a long time in that relationship already. So I said, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get a 9 to 5. So I let go of my entrepreneurship dreams once again. Got a 9 to 5 as a government contractor, working with our nation's military. Thank you to all who have served, by the way. Really appreciate you. My dad was in the Air Force. So did that, was getting a promotion every 1 to 2 years. Everything was going really well. Made it all the way to the C-suite. But in the back of my mind, I still wanted to be an entrepreneur. So it was about the same time that I took a pole dancing class. Look up on my businesses. With one of my line sisters, and you know, I fell in love with it. I love to dance. I've always loved to dance, and I became an instructor. And then the opportunity once again presented itself, because I truly believe that what's meant for you is meant for you, and no one can take what God has promised. So I was like, I don't care what anybody says. I'm gonna go ahead and do this thing. So now I had a full-time job and a full-time business. Now I will admit I was extremely scared, because I had never talked to anybody about my business. I was doing this thing alone in silo. So my husband, now he's my husband, he was not supportive. He was like, you shouldn't go. You're not making any money anyway. You know, why do you have such an expensive hobby? No one cares about your business. No one cares about you. My mother tag teamed with him, telling me I need to concentrate on giving her some grandchildren, having some children, concentrate on my family. It was later that I found out that they're both narcissists. So looking at in there, like, yeah, later I found that out. But neither here nor there. I went to the conference because there was just something about being in the room. And for those of y'all who are in the room today and who are on Zoom in the virtual room, I applaud you, because a lot of times people are afraid to take that step and just be in the room. Start before you're ready, right? So I got myself in the room, and I'm so excited and happy that I did. Like, I probably would not be standing here today if I had not been in that room. And I saw people who were extremely successful, pushing $1 million in revenue, multiple locations, people who were kind of a little further along than me, and then people who were just like me. We trying to figure it all out. We're like, what's happening here, right? So after that, I made it a point to go back every year, hire coaches, mentors, implemented the strategies that I learned. And so now I'm excited because now everything's working. I am operating in my zone of genius and I'm walking in my purpose. So now I have a multi-six-figure business, right? Multi-six-figure business. I'm building the multi-six-figure business, but I'm building a multi-six-figure business in secret. You see, the business was a point of tension in my marriage. And so it caused a lot of argument, a lot of turmoil. And so, there were times where I wouldn't speak to my husband for weeks, and if we did speak about the business, it would just be to tell him that I was either going or coming. That was it. He just couldn't see the success, but others noticed. And I believe that when you question your path, because believe me, I was questioning every day the path that I was on. Is this what I'm supposed to do? Why is my life just so chaotic behind the scenes? Outwardly, I had a multi-six-figure job, had a multi-six-figure business. People was like, oh, you're doing the thing. Inside, I'm like, it would take me hours to go in my house. Y'all, every day, hours. I would just sit outside. So, needless to say, other people started to notice. My friends noticed, his friends noticed, family noticed, and soon I started to get calls and texts and emails about, I want to start a business. Can you help me? Can you talk to me about how you got started? Where can I get funding? How do you set this technology system up? How do you do this? How do you do that? It got so bad, people started to have like these get-togethers just so they could talk to me, which was great. It felt great. I was like, you could have just called me and I would have just came over. But I knew then that I was onto something. And so we were at one of these gatherings, and people would often ask, right? They often ask, especially if you're married, your spouse, how's the business doing, right? That's a normal question. So my husband would say, I don't know, you have to ask her. Typical response. However, this one time, there was something that followed that I was not prepared for. So he said his typical, I don't know, you'll have to ask her. Then he said, personally, I hope it burns down. So if you can just imagine the hurt, the anger, I just felt like a failure. I think the most alone I had ever felt, because this is in front of a room like this size. He's saying this. I didn't know what to do. I could have melted in the floor. It was like having an out-of-body experience and watching yourself on a movie screen. That's kind of what it was like. So at that point, I knew I had a decision to make. Either I was going to be an entrepreneur or I wasn't. Either I was going to continue to live my life according to others, play small, be small, or I wasn't. And I was going to live a life of my own design and walk in my purpose on purpose. Jim Rohn has a quote that I really love, and he says, whatever good things we build end up building us. And so I had to sit back and I had to think. I had built a multiple six-figure business from scratch. I had people asking me how to do the same thing. I had women who were coming to my studio telling me how much they loved being in my doors and the environment, how I saved them, how they left domestic abusive relationships, how they were able to ask for promotions at work, how they just felt like they were just better people overall. And so I knew then what I had to do. That really gave me the ultimate clarity. So I divorced my husband, and I started 3 more businesses, one of which includes my business coaching and brand strategy firm, Simply She, Simply Slay Hard Every Day. And that's where I work with entrepreneurs to teach them how to monetize their expertise, create multiple income streams, which is what I want to talk to you guys about today. Why am I obsessed with multiple income streams? Well, the reason why, if you think about your business as a stool, right? So a stool, we don't have one in here, but the legs on the stool are the income streams. So if you have one leg, one income stream, what happens when it gets cut off? No business, right? You have no business. And unfortunately, that's actually what happened to a lot of the Black-owned businesses during COVID. They had one way to earn. And when that one way was chopped off, not even just business owners, but also people who had jobs, right? That was it. They didn't have any other way. So if your legs on your stool have 3, 4, 5, 6 legs or streams of income, what happens when one gets chopped off? It's still standing. It's still standing, so you still have a business. So creating multiple income streams is a part of my 5-part framework, which I'm going to share with you guys today, also known as the Brand Builder Blueprint. So we have strategy, storytelling, sales, systems, and scaling. Strategy, storytelling, sales, systems, and scaling. The strategy part. What are you selling? Who's your target market? Who's your niche, right? How are you going to get the word out about your business? So having a business strategy is extremely important because your business strategy is going to inform your marketing strategy. A lot of times we skipped to the marketing part. We skipped to set up our social media handles and all those things. We don't know what we're selling, right? We don't have anything to offer anyone. So making sure that you have a complete business strategy that informs your marketing strategy will be extremely important. Next is storytelling. You need to get really, really, really good at telling your brand story, your why. Why are you doing the thing that you're doing? What's the transformation that you can provide? What are your brand values, your core values? I truly believe that your core values will be in alignment with your brand values. So if you don't know yourself, it's going to be really hard to have that shine through in your branding, right? Because we are the brand. Some of us I know might be a little shy. I'm also actually an introvert. I used to hide behind my logo all the time. You would never find me up here speaking. But it was a game changer when I realized that I need to just share my story a little bit more and how much more people connected with me. So storytelling is extremely important, especially when we talk about $1 million branding. Then we have the sales part, which I know some people are already cringing. Sales. You know what? Sales is a conversation, right? It's a key and a system to your success. We can't think about sales as something icky or sleazy, like we've been led to believe, right? Sales is service, right? You want a business. You want to be an entrepreneur. The literal definition of a business is to exchange products or services for currency. So if you are not selling, by definition, you do not have a business, okay? So we need to really embrace sales, right? How many people are hurting because you haven't created that offer or put that offer out yet? How many people are hurting because they haven't heard your voice? How many people are just waiting for you to stand up and raise your hand and say, hey, like, I have this product or this service that's gonna change lives. So if we start to look at sales as being service, then you will be able to communicate your offers and what you have with clarity and confidence. Then systems, which I think is my favorite part. Shout out to everybody who's in the tech field or in STEM. So systems is not just technology. Systems are also processes and procedures that help you run your business. Those two things together, right? So your technology is going to support your processes and procedures in your business, right? It's going to help you be more efficient, but you still got to have processes and procedures, which is why it's important for you to document what you do every day, especially as a CEO, because when it comes time to hire people, you're not going to know, right? So look, listen, you're not going to know what positions you even need. You're just doing anything and everything every single day. Like just randomness. How are you gonna train someone on randomness? It doesn't work. Listen, I have had some jobs where it was some randomness, okay? So you need to not be random. Document what you do, because guess what? As the CEO, whether we want to or not, because think about companies that if you have a 9-to-5 where you may have worked for, they got departments that do marketing, that do sales, that do comms, that do PR, right? Guess what you're gonna do? Because you opened your business. Marketing, sales, comms, PR, tech, all the things. You put on all the hats. But if you want to elevate yourself and become what I call an empowered CEO, your job is to work yourself out of those hats so that you can actually put on the empowered CEO, the visionary hat, and steer the ship, fly the plane, whatever floats your boat in that analogy. So yes, very, very important. Systems are important. Systems equal consistency, which is what you need. You want to see success? Be consistent in whatever you're doing, right? Then finally, there's scaling. Scaling is nothing more than optimization of resources, right? So your time, your team's time, elevating your client experience, right? And adding more income streams, multiple income streams. So for those of you guys who are either in the online space or maybe not even in the online space, you're gonna have your product or your service as your active stream of income, right? The thing that you or your staff are putting their time into to deliver, right? But then there's so many other ways to earn. Courses are one of my favorite ways, right? Put your knowledge and expertise in something self-paced that'll work for you when you're sleeping. Affiliate marketing, the tools and things that you use every single day that you may just recommend to people because you love them. There's an opportunity for you to earn there, right? Licensing. Tony Robbins has a good model for that, right? Because you can be a Tony Robbins coach. He has literally licensed out his brand, so you can use his name. Things to think about to elevate your own brand and get more eyes on your brand and also be able to earn. So many other ways that you can earn. Royalties is another way, franchising, so many different ways, right? We're not limited to or should be addicted to the hustle of always being active, like doing the active income, like us doing the work. You do not have to do the work to earn, okay? So thinking about ways for us to be able to create additional income streams where maybe we only have one way, that we're actively involved. So that is the Brand Builder Blueprint framework, strategy, storytelling, sales, systems, and scaling. I don't know where you guys are in your business today. Maybe we've just started, maybe we've been doing it for a few years, a lot of years, maybe it's just an idea. Maybe you're thinking of setting up a new income stream. Either way, I always would invite you to invest in yourself, bet on yourself, walk in your purpose, on purpose. Don't be afraid to take the next step. I invite you guys to connect with me. You can apply for the Brand Builder Blueprint at slayhardeveryday.co. Again, that's what the SHE stands for, slayhardeveryday.co. And you can also connect with me on Instagram at I_simply_she. And I'm Krystal Vernee, and thank you so much. Hey.
Building your legacy through something we've been talking about all day, y'all. Transformational action. The floor is yours.
Thank you. It's an honor to serve such amazing, dope people, and it's also amazing to be standing before you all. And I'm not going to be before you all long because I'm not that long speaker. And plus, my coach be watching. She got her pen and a piece of paper. So, but we're in a room that's full of wealth, and in this room, I've heard so many different resources, and the resources that I've been hearing is about wealth and legacy and quantum leap. and trauma, and everything has been so empowerment and elevating and edifying. But the one thing that I notice is that sometimes we take all those resources and we don't apply them. So because you don't apply them, you're not going to get the results that you want. And a lot of times when we do that, it becomes frustrating to us. How many of y'all have ever in your life not made a move and you know you were supposed to make that move? I can't hear y'all. Oh, okay, then I want y'all to talk back to me, because I don't want to feel like I'm up here by myself. Because I know that there was a time in my life when I didn't make a move, and it cost me dearly. And what it cost me was me becoming broken. It cost me to lose my self-esteem. It cost me not understanding the value of who I am and what I can carry. And transformation is so important. But one thing I want to teach y'all on today, transformation does not do any good if you do not get into action. And one of the actions that you have to get into is that mindset. Because our mindset is very wealthy. And the other thing is action. Ask yourself, what stopped me from moving before? I can tell y'all what stopped me from moving before. I was told I would never amount to anything. I was told that I had 3 kids and I would never go anywhere. Yeah. And I'm gonna tell you the funny part. His name was Leroy. Right. Yeah. And I carried that around. I'm a retired 21-year-old LPN nurse, right? But prior to me becoming that nurse, I was going to school, and I remember one day I was coming back from school. I had paid my way through school, and I came home, and when I walked in the door, and I was told, you have to move. And I'm like, I have to do what? And he's like, you have to move. You have to go. And you have to leave today. So he removed me and 3 kids and put us in a house, in a city, in a place that we knew nothing about, right? So how can you imagine how I felt at that particular time with 3 kids? They looking at me saying, what you gonna do? And I'm looking at them saying, I don't know. But in that moment, I had to decide whether I was gonna allow that situation to win or was I going to win? And because I decided to win, I pushed my way through. And I just want to encourage y'all going forward in life. Stop stopping and stop thinking with a poverty mindset. Stop saying you can't do, can't be, can't have, can't go when there's too many resources. The reason why we don't obtain the things that we want out of life is because we don't get into action. That's our stumbling block, is we don't get into action. We take all these notes, we take all these resources, but then when it's time to get in movement, we talk ourselves out of it. It's kind of like we do a double dutch. You're doing this right here. And you saying, I can, but you never jump in. But the only way you're gonna get the results is if you jump in. So I wanna leave y'all with this. I want y'all to repeat this after me. Because when you repeat it today, you're saying to me, Andrena, I'm gonna take action from this day forward. I want y'all to say, my wealth is in my mindset. My wealth is in my action. Then I want y'all to say, come through Andrena.
Come through Andrena.
That way y'all will never forget me. For putting such an amazing event. And I am grateful that she gave me the honor to serve with her and to serve some amazing people. And I really, truly enjoyed everything about this experience. And you can reach me on Instagram at keep_moving with Andrena. With Andrena on Instagram. You can also follow me on my website.
Had your eyes open to some of the things that you didn't realize were abuse. And so now we're going to have Sergeant Stephanie Shannon, come talk to us about overcoming is resiliency. So we see the problem, now what do we do about it? Come on out to the stage.
Thank you.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Opportunity to share.
Yeah, give her a hand.
So glad to be here. So glad to see all you and hopefully get to know you a little better. And it's just a blessing to make it through the pandemic. It's truly a blessing. I am Sergeant Stephanie Shannon. I'm from Michigan. I'm actually Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm the founder and CEO of Michigan Women Veterans Empowerment. It's a faith-based nonprofit organization that empowers all veterans, the youth, service members, and the age dimensions of wellness. I am also the best-selling author of Battling the Storm Within. It's awesome. Nothing but God, nothing but God. The story is about me living 20 years undiagnosed with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. It's caused by MST, military sexual trauma. 1 in 3 women are sexually assaulted in the military. 50% of the victims are men. 22 veterans commit suicide every day. Also, it's also about my journey of the Gulf War illness. A lot of people don't know about that. So I struggled many years with the Gulf War illness. I also have another book called Our Voices United. It's an anthology book project for women veteran stories. It's very important that I recorded the story. So my journey a little bit, it came from me joining the military because I wanted to be all I can be. They sold you this, oh, you can travel the world on Uncle Sam's tab and go to school and all this great stuff. And I was like, okay. So I joined the military and I found out it was nothing like what the recruiter said it was. It was actually a whole nother world. Once you get in there, it's over. You basically are in a hyper male environment. At the time, I was deployed to Desert Storm. That was the first war where it was the most women. And during that time, we had, how could I say, we were the first televised war, so after Vietnam War. I drove 14 tons, tractor trailers, Patriots, ammos, missiles, very difficult job. Experienced sexual harassment, sexual assault, belittling. Women were raped over there. There was no system of reporting. We were harassed. We worked all the time. We basically survived. I just prayed and asked God to make it through this situation. After I got back home, I came home and it's called an exit interview. Whenever you're deployed, everybody in the military does not have this experience. I'm not down in the military. I'm just basically uncover what happens in the military. I told them about what I experienced. I reported it and there was nothing done. And I call it friendly fire. So it was happening to me with my comrades and to my leaders. So when I reported it, I was belittled. I was put on harsher duties. I experienced having my pelvic cracked. I was, injured in accidents. Nothing was done. So I was just glad to be alive. We had Scud missiles. It was the first time when they had a POW, a prisoner of war. It was a woman. A lot of things was going on that they did not report media. So when we got back home, I told them about my sleep disturbance, everything was going on. When you say PTSD, they do not equate it to a woman. They equate it to like combat infantry. You gotta have something missing, an arm, didn't blow it up, so they belittled it. I told them everything I was going through, and they basically said it was all in my head. So there was no support basis for women. There was no women's clinic, so I suffered. I suffered in silence. I struggled. So being a preacher's kid and raised in the church, that's one thing I did have. I did have that in me. I learned how to pray. I asked God. I said, Lord, you allow me to make it back. I said, I'm in pain, I'm suffering. But the church wasn't a support base. Because when I came to them, be strong in the Lord and the power of the might. Put oil on my forehead, I tarry, but I was still in pain. And I was talking about counseling. The Holy Spirit is your counselor. I was like, I'm trying to process this. So it really wasn't any counseling available. And one thing about the church, we do have, yes, we have pastors, I'm licensed ordained, but also we don't have professionals, what I mean, in trauma, we was talking about trauma. And also what we do, they tell you business, and they preach on you over the pulpit, or they get on the phone, and they start talking about you. I'm just letting you know so we can pray for it. But everybody know your business. So a lot of times you suffer, and you're in pain, and you're struggling, and nobody can hear you
because everybody know your business. So I basically hid it, and I struggled, and I was depressed and had suicidal ideations and wanted to no longer live, because I didn't want to live this life, because I was like, oh my God, I'm back home, I'm estranged from family, I don't trust nobody, I don't have a support. So I was distant, but I was quiet. I struggled, got my degree, went to social work, and I helped children. Child welfare system, anybody know about that? It's very difficult, abuse and neglect, state boards and court, very traumatizing job every day. So I was pouring out, giving my all to everybody else. I burned myself out, got married, narcissist. You attract them. If you're empath and you love people and you want to help everybody else, you give your all. Women, we're nurturers. We always want to help everybody else, give somebody else something, but we don't give it to ourselves. And they consider it selfish, but it's not. Self-care is not selfish, it's self-preservation. And I didn't know that at that time. So I ended up becoming actually a homeless veteran because I worked and my doctor took me off on stress leave. I met a black female psychiatrist. And I was like, I ain't taking no medications, I ain't taking no pills, we don't do that. Black folks don't do that. Our ancestors didn't do that. We don't do that kind of stuff. We don't go to therapy. Talk about what, you know? And she was like, Stephanie, you know, we have to. But these are real issues that we have in our culture because our ancestors didn't have this privilege. And then we talk about the mental health, psychiatry in this field. It's about 4% of us that represent it. I want somebody that look like me that can get it. If I say something, you can relate to me. So she helped me, Stephanie, get on this, and it did help me. It helped me with my depression, my anxiety. It helped me process the counseling and hear. It helped me to be able to understand some of the situations, but still, I could not work anymore. I was burnt crispy. So actually becoming a homeless veteran, hitting rock bottom, I came into the system. And when I came into the system, well, actually, I ended up going into therapy. I started applying what I knew, and that's where the healing began. So I encourage anybody that experienced trauma, prolonged exposure therapy is one of the best. And what I did was self-care. So I started figuring out and putting my power into myself, not expecting anybody to help me. Started telling my girlfriends, I started being my best friend. I started realizing that I needed to heal myself. Resiliency is taking care of yourself, not expecting anybody to do that for you, being your best friend. So healing, I created a happy place for me. I'm actually a farmer. I started farming and gardening. Because gardening and farming, what it does, it keeps you in the present. And you're taking care of these plant babies. And God gave me an assignment. He said, I gave Adam and Eve an original assignment, and it was to tend to my garden. And he told me to go back to that assignment. So actually, a lot of my healing came from that. So you have to figure out what makes me happy. So looking for another relationship and looking for someone else to do that for you, you need to do that for yourself. So resiliency, when you think about it, is that we have that. We have trauma in our DNA as African Americans, but also we have the ability to also heal ourselves. So anything toxic, unhealthy people, you often outgrow people. When you're talking about success, becoming authors, starting nonprofits, you often outgrow people. A lot of times you tell someone and they may get envious or jealous of you. You go to the next level, someone that's more like an iron sharpened iron relationship. So it's very important when you have goals and dreams that you don't focus on your past. You can only take care of what, okay, I've experienced this, I'm gonna move forward, I'm gonna release this person, and I'm gonna give the gift of love and life to myself. Because you attract what you are. So I found out when I started healing myself, I started meeting healing and happier people.
Yes.
So as long as I stopped being a victim, they did this, they did that. I forgave them, and I forgive, and I forgave again, but I didn't reconcile. I set boundaries. Boundaries is very necessary. You gotta close those doors and just shut it down. Even if you don't speak again, you can forgive someone that has passed, someone you divorced, or someone that might even be in this room, or even your church. You know, even your pastor. Oh. I forgive you, I love you, but I can't do this. So God told me that that's a way of honoring yourself and the gift he has in you. So it's so important that interpersonal trauma, and it did affect my finances. So after I started healing myself, believing in God in me, and I spoke to God, and my relationship with him is first. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. So he will add life, he will add peace, and he will add the pieces unto you. So today in this conference, I'm so excited to be a part of this, and I believe that what happens is that you can go to all these conferences, all these seminars, and all these things, but you have to apply what you know. So leaving here, and these people that's here, and the things you gather, make sure you gather these nuggets, you apply it to your life, and know that you are responsible for your peace, and the peace is not something that comes outside or within. Thanks for listening.
I'm all over here like, amen, amen. Except for the part about forgetting your pastor. Now, Abundance Church of the Living God International folks, if you need to forgive me, please forgive me. I do the best I can do. You know, I'm still, I preach holiness and righteousness, but I'm still a work in progress. But we really do have to forgive. And I'm going to hang on this for a second because spirituality is so important in our culture. I think for me, as somebody who is trying to be a spiritual person, one of the largest categories of people I have to ask the Lord to help me forgive is people in the church, leaders in the church, the people who sat down and knew what my ex-husband was doing to me, and told me to suffer long for the ministry's sake, and all of those things. And I can talk about it now without crying because I've done the work. But you brought out a lot of things, and I hope that we didn't gloss over it today. You brought out a lot of things, like with the gardening and even just going to therapy in the first place. And some of these things we don't realize how important they are, and I was one of them. And I don't know if I've shared this with many in the room, but when I had that car accident 6 years ago, actually this last month, that ended my military career, I resisted when the psychologist said, you need to go and do exposure therapy. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm fine. The Lord is with me. I got the Holy Ghost. I'm fine. And I wasn't fine. And I saw a car accident, and I went into the big meeting with our new boss, sitting at the staff table, all feeling like I'm high and mighty Lieutenant Colonel Conway. And I couldn't stop crying. And my opportunity to shine and advance in my military career was wasted because I hadn't done the work to get over that car accident. And a lot of us, because we don't do the work, we don't even know the work needs to be done. We hamstring ourselves over and over again. And it's a cultural abuse. It's a culture. It's imprinted. Oh, y'all, I wish Roz was here today. She was going to talk about how this abuse is imprinted in our DNA. And so I'm not qualified to talk on that, but thank you. We're going to bring up to the stage someone who I have enjoyed talking with because, her wealth theory is so much similar to what I teach. And I don't stifle anybody today. I believe there's enough people out there. Now look, I learned from Dr. Cheryl, don't train up your competition. Make sure they have a little something different. but there's enough need. I cannot reach everybody. And even if I could, everybody don't resonate with J.J. Conway. So everybody has a different style, everybody has different energy, and so I'm all about, if somebody is teaching people how to manage their wealthy mindset, I am all about bringing them to you. So today we have Asia K. She is going to talk to you about quantum wealth theory. And as a physicist in the Air Force, I am mad I didn't come up with that. Let's give her a hand,
y'all. Hello, everybody. Hello. JJ had a perfect segue talking about the 500 millionaire and the beliefs that we have, because the quantum wealth theory is just that. It's exploring our money beliefs, the ones that we don't even realize we have. So I'm going to stay on time. I tried to jam pack as much as I could in this 10-minute slide, and I want to make sure that I'm honoring our time today. So forgive me if I talk fast. Also, I'm a little excited, and I talk fast normally anyway, so. My name is Asia Kirkendall, and I started ACE Financial Matters to teach kids about money. We'll talk about my experience and how I got there, and here we go.
Also, especially in this legacy conversation, if we talk about generational wealth and legacy, we have to realize that bringing the kids in on this conversation is absolutely necessary. So our quick agenda for today, I'm going to tell you about who I am, how I learned what I'm about to share with you. We're going to define what legacy and generational wealth is so we can be on the same page. I'm going to introduce the quantum wealth theory briefly, and then I'm going to preview 2 of the 7 phases of that quantum wealth theory. Asia Kirkendall, there's no R. I'm from Austin and San Antonio, Texas, but I've been in Atlanta for the last 8 years. I'm the firstborn of 4 siblings, and FOE, that stands for family over everything. And that's what's most important for me. That's why I do this work that I do. The reason why I'm striving to make more money so I can have more freedom to spend with my family. And first generation, because I grew up, my parents told me, you're gonna go to school because we don't want you to have the same financial challenges that we have. And so going to school, getting that good job, surely that's what's gonna prevent you from having those same financial struggles. So I went to school, got my bachelor's in accounting, got my master's in finance. But I only bring that up because what I'm gonna share with you today is not what I learned in school. They taught me how to manage business finances. They didn't teach me how to manage personal finance. So my money lessons come from real life experiences. It came from my 9th birthday when I got a couple $100s in birthday cash, but my mom needed to borrow it to pay the light bill that was past due. And so this experience taught me that to be insecure with money, believing there was always gonna be something outside of myself that was gonna come in and take priority, and ultimately led to me hoarding money growing up. Oh, not yet. The other experience I learned was 2014 when I decided to move to Atlanta. I had this vision and motivation for something that I wanted. And so for the next 12 months, I saved $10,000 because I had something that was able to keep me disciplined in my day-to-day decisions. I learned about money in 2019 when I decided to quit my good job to be a full-time entrepreneur. I spent the next 4 years with the inconsistent cash flow. And what that taught me was to be super clear about my goals and desires, and making sure that my actions and what I spent day to day aligned with that, because having to be lean on an entrepreneur budget was essential. And most importantly, the biggest money lesson I learned was in 2017 when I ruptured my Achilles tendon playing basketball. It was going to cost me $5,000 out of pocket for that surgery, which is going to be added to a $7,000 consumer balance that I wasn't doing anything with, even though I had all the disposable income in the world. And so that was the catalyst moment for me where I went to ask the question, okay, I'm technically financially literate, the degrees would say so, but there was something that I was missing because my behaviors weren't aligning with the knowledge that I had. And also I was further away from my financial goals than I ever was before. So the question was, what are the wealthy 1% doing that the rest of the 99% is missing? And for the next 3 years, from 2017 to 2020, when I first started developing the quantum wealth theory, it boils down to 3 things. Number 1, business and tax strategy, because in America, taxes are our largest expense, so we need to minimize that to use more of the income we earn. Number 2 is life insurance products, understanding that they're more than just for death benefit, there are living benefits as well. And then number 3 is what I'm here to share with you today, is the wealth mentality. And I'm sure if you're in this room, you've heard about that. Money is a mindset, being wealthy is a mindset. But I haven't heard many people talk about what that really means and how you actually build it. And so that's what the quantum wealth theory is how to build that wealth mentality. Legacy and generational wealth. Money equals grown folks business. I grew up hearing that. Who else grew up hearing that? And so back to that legacy conversation, if we agree that they go through school, kids go through school and never learning about money, we're not supposed to ask our parents how much they make. We don't ask about spending decisions. And granted, it may have been with good intention, parents wanted to shield the kids from the financial challenges they may have been experiencing. But at some point, we have to introduce them to the conversation about it, good or bad, because if we send them out at 18 years old into the world with never being able to have a conversation, experience, or learn about it, then we're just repeating that same cycle if we never take the time to teach. Financial stress and health. If heart disease is the #1 killer in the Black community, Chronic stress over time is a major contributor to heart disease, and financial stress, especially when passed down through generations, is a chronic stress over time. Then one might conclude that financial challenges and financial stress is one of the top killers in the Black community. And so taking control of our financial matters for the sake of our health is number one, but also if we're doing all this work to build wealth, what good is it if we're not healthy enough to experience with our families? Economic empowerment. I use this term on the flip side of financial literacy because, like I shared with my story, knowing better is just the first step. We have to build the tools and empower ourselves to actually do better. And so economic empowerment means taking it upon ourselves to decide how we want to be wealthy and how we want to experience that. And the good job, you can't pass that down, okay? And so not saying everybody has to be a business owner, but empowering ourselves to figure out what legacy and generational wealth means to us. We have to figure that out because the cookie cutter financial plans, they're likely not gonna work. I mean, they might, but you tell me how that, you tell me somebody that's worked for just getting a good job and then seeing what happens in the next generation. So what is the quantum wealth theory? It's a custom plan to help you not only identify what your true desires are, because likely you don't want green pieces of paper stacking up or digits on the bank account on your computer screen. You want experiences, you want freedom, you want love, peace, joy. And so this workbook is a step-by-step workbook that also comes with video explanations to help you read it, but also listen to it with additional explanations, and also a community app where we can learn from each other's experiences and support each other. It's the missing link to this conversation because we talk about the day-to-day actions. We don't realize all the time how our decisions day-to-day impact our financial goals and our financial health. Even if it's not money being spent, sometimes our day-to-day circumstances still impacts our finances. And then lastly, we do bring in some actual quantum physics and the idea that energy is everything. The tables that we're sitting in front of, the chairs we're sitting on, it's made of particles of matter that are held together with vibrational energy vibrating at a certain frequency. The cells in our body, same thing, matter being held together by vibrational energy. And so the example is H2O, 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen being held together with a certain frequency. That's water. What about ice and steam? Same particle makeup, but the frequency vibrates differently, which changes the state of that. And so I bring this up saying everything is energy because just because there's not a physical component to it, our thoughts, our words, our actions, our beliefs, our feelings, our habits are also energy, and aligning those with our financial goals is essential. And so one of the principles I highlight is the observer effect. Without getting to the experiment, they were shooting particles through a double slit, and the particles behaved one way when they were tracking it at first. But when they put an observing tool next to it to see more closely how it behaved, the particles changed behaviors. And so this idea of the observer effect is about our attention. When they say pay attention, realizing that our attention is currency, and simply observing our financial habits and our financial behaviors can change the results of our financial goals one way or another. So this is what I'm going to speed through. These are the 7 steps. If you want to take a picture, you can to read through this, but I'll go on a tangent if I read through all this. And so I'm going to preview phases 1 and 3 on the next couple slides. JJ, am I good on time?
We can go quickly through it.
Yep. All right. Default programming. This is the triune brain model. Tri meaning 3. And the idea is our brain evolved over time, first starting with the reptilian brain, or what they call the monkey mind. And this is the idea that this part of our brain is focused on our instincts, our survival. It regulates our automatic and reflexive body systems, our breathing, our heart rate, and most importantly, the fight or flight reflexes. So when we talk about that stress, back when this part of the brain was first developed, they were stressing about saber-toothed tigers on the Havana. But now, here we are in 2023, those stressors could come for us in traffic, or getting an email from the boss at 4:30 on a Friday asking you to do a task you know is going to take you an hour long. So when you realize where these reflexes come from, then you can better identify how that impacts your life, and ultimately how that may impact your financial decisions. The second part of the brain was evolved to allow us to imagine, dream, and desire rewards. And this is where it makes us want to always seek pleasure and avoid pain. And so you guys can only imagine how that impacts your finances. We're talking about subconscious beliefs, or our money scripts, like JJ was saying, the things that we don't even realize we believe. Cognitive dissonance, that relates to the idea that you may have certain financial plans, but if your behaviors are going against those plans, you're discoherent. Debt is bad. That's one I wanted to make sure to highlight, because if you listen to those like Dave Ramsey, he'll tell you buying anything on debt is bad. But make sure that you reflect to see if you truly believe that, because if you do, then the efforts you make trying to leverage, make cash flow won't have the right impact, because you truly believe that it doesn't work for you. And as if ancient evolutionary forces weren't enough, there's clever advertisers who use the psychology to get us to buy things and want things that may not necessarily align with our goals. And then lastly, I just want to breeze through this idea here of the North Star vision, because this North Star vision is 5 years in the future. If you were to plan your ideal lifestyle, this is the vision that you want to have in mind, to look forward to when day to day you're faced with certain challenges. Because if you paint this vision clearly enough, feel it, taste it, believe it, then you can recall this image. Your brain doesn't know if it's a future idea or a past memory, and you can feel this. And this is the vision that can motivate you day to day to overcome some of those challenges. And then lastly, talking about that brain-heart coherence, going back to energy and motion. If we realize that when we have emotions or certain reflexes, that those are signals for us to pay attention to. And if you know where they come from, you can use that as fuel to help you align better to your financial goals, and understanding that our heart is much more powerful than our brain. So it's not enough to just think and have a plan. You have to align your heart to that same plan and make sure that you're making progress on that effectively or efficiently. And then lastly, I'll just show you, we're talking about dopamine and where it comes from. If we know these activities give us the feeling of pleasure and happiness, and your body wants to experience that pleasure and happiness, and so it's subconsciously motivated to do more of those things. And so if we can get this dopamine in other areas of our life, then we can hack that system and make sure that we feel rewarded for working towards our goals. Not saying that we have to delay gratification, but more so positively anticipating what we want, instead of saying that you have to put it off and you can't experience joy now. And so I would ask if you could follow me. Brand strategist said I need to build my personal brand to share more. It's a curriculum that I'm going to get licensed, because I do want to bring it into the schools. But this is part of me workshopping this material now. And I really appreciate you guys for engaging and listening to me, because this is a lifelong project for me, growing up with my mom, the single parent with the poverty mentality, and really just undoing a lot of this and sharing what I know, because like JJ said, in our community, this is major conversation, and this is what I'm here for.
It's a conversation we need to have.
There is less than 2 months until you need to file your taxes. The deadline for individual returns is April 15th. According to the IRS, the average tax refund is nearly 11% higher than last year. The average refund is about $2,300. And while it can be a bit of a struggle of individual filers, if you own a small business, it is a whole different ball game to figure out, and getting ahead of it and staying on top of it year round is probably the best bet. But if you haven't, we have an expert that can really help you out and help you navigate tax season. I want to welcome Vernee Smith. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Ryan.
And you are here also with a nice guide for people who this bookkeeping book that you created really helps specifically small business owners. So tell me a little bit about your background and what makes you such an expert when it comes to taxes for small business owners.
Yeah, Rhonda, thank you so much for having me. And again, my name is Vernee Smith. I am the founder and CEO of Tried and True Financial Services. I'm a licensed enrolled agent and a financial strategist. And so what I do is I help small business owners gain clarity and confidence around their numbers so that they can move forward and manage their businesses with success.
Okay, so taxes is overwhelming for a lot of, for all of us. If we're not accountants like you are, it can be overwhelming. What is your advice for small business owners specifically in order to really stay on top of this?
Definitely you want to, like you said earlier, take that year-round approach. Tax season is not transactional. It's not a one-time-a-year thing. By that time, you've already missed some important milestones. And so when you really work and partner with someone who can help you stay on top of your finances year-round, making sure that you have solid systems in place so that you can track your income and expenses and make those strategic financial decisions as the year moves through, and so that you're not surprised at tax time.
I think sometimes when you're a small business owner, you're already working, around the clock, and then you got to do this, your paperwork and get on the computer. So what are like some techniques that make the process more efficient and easier so it's not so time consuming and overwhelming?
Yeah, I think that when working on your business and working in your business is two different things, and you have to carve out that time. Personally, for me, I set aside each week a professional development day, and so that's when I carve out time to work on my business and not just in my business. Even if you just do it once a month, that's going to put you much more ahead of the curve, because you have to watch your finances. You got to keep track of what's coming in and what's going out, and that's going to remove the stress and the overwhelm that comes with managing your business. And so when you create a system or put a process in place that you're tracking it throughout the year, that's what makes it a lot
What are some of the common
easier.
mistakes that small business owners make in this area?
Yeah, one of the common mistakes is believing that they don't need a bookkeeping system, that they can just manage their finances by looking at their bank statements. And that's one of the reasons why I created this book, because in practice and working with entrepreneurs, this is one of the things that I see they skip over all the time.
And if they,
it is
so much trouble on the other
It
end.
is, and if you just use the basic principles of bookkeeping and do it once a month, set aside an hour or 4 hours out of each month, you'll be that much further along and much confident in your business.
And so this book is really a guide for business owners, but also you're a resource as well.
Absolutely.
And then there's an opportunity through Chase Bank, which you partner with in order for folks to get an education on this as well that's coming up. So tell us how we can participate in that if we're small business owners.
Absolutely. So I am a recent graduate of the Coaching for Impact program. It's a free resource that Chase Bank offers to small business owners. And through that relationship and through that partnership, as I was releasing my book here in January of 2026, they saw an opportunity for us where we had common clients that we can come together and offer these resources to the small business community. So on this Saturday, February 21st, I am going to be hosting my very first book signing event at the Chase Bank branch at 8 Mile in Woodward from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Wonderful.
And Chase is going to share the same resources that I had the opportunity to participate in. Any small business owner, whether you're a Chase Bank customer or not, that it's a free resource. And so I always want to amplify that message. I'm not gatekeeping, but I want people to know that there are resources out here to help you, simple resources.
At no cost, which sounds like, what's the catch?
Absolutely.
And there's no catch.
There's no catch.
All right, well,
You
congratulations
just got to show
on
up.
the book. How do we get this?
So this book, you can find it on my website at triedandtruefs.com or on Amazon.
Okay, well, congrats, and thank you so much for putting this together. That's a great resource.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. It's good meeting you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, JJ, for inviting me to this year's Juneteenth Legacy Conference. My name is Vernee Smith. I am an enrolled agent, a financial strategist, an author, and the founder of Tried and True Financial Services, where I architect financial clarity for business owners who are ready to take control of their finances and build profitable businesses. Tonight, as we celebrate the legacy of Juneteenth, a declaration of freedom, I want to challenge us to think about another kind of freedom, financial freedom. Over the next few minutes, I want to share a simple framework that has helped entrepreneurs that I serve build their businesses with clarity, confidence, and conviction. Juneteenth declared freedom, but I want to ask you something. How many of us are still not free in our businesses? Not because we lack talent, not because we lack drive, but because building in the dark, making decisions, because we are building in the dark and making decisions without clarity. And so today, I want to challenge that. So over the next few minutes, I'm going to give you a framework that has not only transformed the businesses of entrepreneurs that I serve, but it also kept my own business alive when everything in my life could have fallen apart. Research tells us, this is issued by the SBA as well as the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that 50% of businesses fail within the first 5 years. And the main reasons are due to poor cash flow management, lack of financial systems, and making decisions in the dark. But clarity is the solution, because in my 5th year of business, I became a statistic on paper when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And now I had a choice. I could have shut down. I could have stepped back. I could have closed my doors and hope that something was there on the other side when I came out of it. Or I could trust what I had built was strong enough to hold firm. And it was my faith, it was my support system, and my business systems that I had put in place that allow me to keep serving my clients, stay compliant, and push forward, even in the middle of one of life's hardest seasons. And so I didn't just survive, I kept going. I pushed through it. And that is what I want for every entrepreneur that's listening to this broadcast. A business strong enough to carry you when life gets hard, because it will, okay? Clarity, confidence, and conviction. These 3 pillars center around one purpose. And it begins with clarity, right? Making sure that you know your numbers, because you cannot lead what you cannot see. Confidence, because knowledge builds confidence. It doesn't work the other way around. And then conviction, because you have to see your business as your legacy. You have to see your business as your legacy. Then you will build it that way, because you'll be driven by what you truly believe. And so I'm going to ask you a quick question, and I want you to be honest with yourself. Do you know, without opening a spreadsheet, without checking your banking app, what your revenue was last month? Or what your top expenses were? Whether or not you even made a profit? Okay, and if the answer is no, or even I think so, you don't have clarity yet. You have activity. And activity without clarity is just expensive, busy work. We don't want to just be booked and busy. We need clarity. Clarity means that you know your numbers, you know where your money is coming from, you know where your money is going, and what's left over. You know what your profit margins are. You know what your break-even point is. You know how much money that you got to make to cover your expenses. Freedom is not just political.
Financial freedom begins the moment you can see exactly where you stand. And so here's something I tell every entrepreneur that I work with. Confidence is not something that you feel before you know what you're doing. Confidence is what happens because of what you know, because you know what you're doing. And at Tried and True Financial Services, we guide business owners through what I call one of my signature frameworks, the ABCs of finance, which is advisory, bookkeeping, and compliance. These are not accounting buzzwords. These are 3 pillars of a business that's built to last. Advisory is your strategy, making informed decisions about growth, about pricing, about profit. And your profit isn't just about money, it's about options. And then bookkeeping is your foundation, keeping accurate records so that you always know where you stand. Your bookkeeping isn't just about taxes, it's about stewardship. And then compliance. Compliance is your protection piece, right? Staying current with all of your regulatory requirements, like those issued by the IRS, so that nothing sneaks up on you, like those pesky little quarterly estimated taxes and such, or sales tax. And so when you understand these 3 things, the ABCs, you stop guessing. And when you stop guessing, you start leading. That's confidence, built on knowledge, grounded in truth. And so your systems aren't just about efficiency. They're about building something that can outlast you. Legacy. Now, clarity and confidence will take you far, but conviction, that's what keeps you going when the numbers aren't where you want them to be. When a client walks away, when life hands you a diagnosis that you didn't ask for. Conviction says, I'm called to this. This business is not just a revenue stream. It's a legacy. It's provision for my family. It's a seat at the table that someone before me never had access to. And so we're gathered here tonight in the spirit of Juneteenth, but freedom was declared. But our ancestors knew something that we have to remember. Freedom is not just the absence of chains. It's the presence of purpose. Built with conviction. Do it right, do it with integrity, and build it to outlast you. Now, moving forward, I want you to perform your own declaration of independence. Declare independence from guessing. Declare independence from avoiding your numbers. Declare independence from making decisions in the dark. And then do one thing this week for me. I need you to do one thing for me this week. Sit down with your business finances and find out the truth. Because freedom is not just knowing what you're free from. It's knowing what you're free to build. Okay? It's knowing, freedom is knowing what you're free to build. You have access, you have options. And that journey begins with clarity. And so when you leave here tonight, ask yourself, do I know the truth about my business? Not what I hope is true. Not what I think is true. Not what I pray is true. Do I know the truth? Okay? Do I know what I earned? Do I know what I spent? Do I know what I owe? Do I know what I'm building? Because clarity begins the moment we stop avoiding our numbers and start facing them. And here's the truth, what I've learned.
The truth may make you uncomfortable, but the truth will set you free. And so this week, set aside 1 hour and review your business finances, not to judge yourself, not to beat yourself up, simply to understand where you stand. Because you cannot build a legacy on assumptions. You build it on truth. And so if this information, this session resonated with you, know this: Juneteenth is a declaration, it's legacy. I'm asking you to make a declaration of your own. Declare that you will lead your business with clarity by knowing your numbers. Declare that you will build with confidence, grounded in knowledge and truth. And declare that you will move with conviction, because this business is your legacy and you're not building it alone. Freedom was declared in 1865. Financial freedom is built one decision at a time. Okay? So if any of this information resonated with you, or if you'd like to stay connected with me, feel free to scan the QR code, and I look forward to speaking with you in the future. Happy Juneteenth.